What is going on, you guys? It is Dollar Cost Crypto here with the man, the myth, the legend, Stirling. What's up, bro?
Hey, Miguel.
Hey, what's up?
Bro, that introduction is amazing. That whole just meme reel, I love it. Every second of it.
Hey, man, dude, I appreciate it, man. Well, dude, welcome, man, to the studio. This is the first time we've actually had an in-person live studio. I think I've always just been at your house, your apartments, and stuff like that. Yeah,
this is much nicer setup.
Hey, the high-rise is nice, man.
Well, a little bit less wine around here, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the wine night, right? Damn, yeah, that was a crazy. We actually drank quite a lot, actually, on that stream.
Yeah, don't remind me. Whew.
Yeah, man. But hey, well, welcome, you guys. And I've got him live in the studio and stuff. We're planning to talk about a ton of stuff that's going on in the economy, as well as what's going on with the whole TATE situation.
Yeah.
A lot of bullshit with that, and also to kind of dispel a lot of, basically the rumors. I mean, something that me and you were kind of talking about in the background was that there's a lot of people kind of pretending like they knew him for some reason, and knowing more information that it's sort of like, oh no, it's sort of like when someone gets popular, it's like, oh no, we've been friends for years,
Yeah, and people who've just obviously never been around the guy, only know his online persona, trying to leaping to conclusions and making assumptions, and it's about time that this crap gets dispelled.
Yeah, man. So let's start. So where did you want to start on that, man?
Well, we can jump right into it. I mean, I'm going to pull up my old laptop here.
The handy dandy notebook.
We got a few, just so I want to make sure I've got, my information is as accurate as I can possibly get it for you guys. But, so, basically, what just happened was Andrew and Tristan and the other two girls, Georgiana being one of them, went in to appeal, and the appeal got rejected. It doesn't mean they've been convicted, doesn't mean they're guilty or anything like that. It means they're going to be detained for the 30 days in full.
Right.
And what does that mean exactly, right? They'll remain for the minimum of 30 days, and then one of three things could possibly happen. They could get an extension of another 3 months detention time. They could go under supervised house arrest with those ankle bracelet kind of thingies.
Yeah.
Or they get released with a pre-trial conditional release.
Is that a bond and everything and stuff like that?
Yeah, something like that. If they do get released, they'll need to report regularly to a police station, and they're basically not allowed to leave the country, right?
Yeah.
That's the general situation right now.
Right.
Now there's a couple of rumors that have been spreading around, or that were spreading around, that just need to be completely quashed.
Right.
So I'm going to start with a couple of good ones, like the Greta Thunberg pizza bullshit. pizza box gate.
Pizzagate.
Pizzagate.
The wrong Pizzagate.
Yeah, the different kind of Pizzagate. So an article was published which was trying to say, oh, he got apprehended because the Romanian authorities knew he was in the country because of the pizza chain that he ordered on this response video to Greta.
Right.
And like immediately that I saw that, I'm like, do people not know what a passport is? Are people not aware of like passport control?
Sir, I don't travel.
Like, how do you believe that the authorities didn't know he was in the country? Right. I mean, he flies in on private jets, but they still check your passport when you come into in and out of the country.
Right.
So the authorities knew he was there, like because they know he comes into the country. So it had nothing to do with this pizza thing, and it was obviously used as, I mean, the journalist who actually literally made it up.
Yeah.
Tim Pool did a whole breakdown of that.
Right.
On his podcast, and it was just the journalist completely fabricated the whole story.
Yeah, shout out to Tim Pool.
Yeah, but the idea was like you could see it. It's such an easy setup. It's like, oh, here's our poster child Greta who got the big baddie Tate arrested. That was the narrative they're trying to push.
Right.
Which is complete horseshit.
And then they pushed that stupid tweet of like, see, that's what happens when you don't recycle.
Yeah. Like, come on, man. Like,
yeah.
So just that on the surface gives you an idea of how hard they're trying to, like, the powers that be, the mainstream media, are trying to push, like, a narrative against Andrew.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. Now, the second thing, which I found very interesting, was that they were saying, like, his Bugatti got seized.
Right.
And this is also complete fabrication, because his Bugatti is sitting in his friend's driveway in Dubai. It has not been seized. It's sitting there in Dubai.
It is nothing but lies out here, man. Like, even I was like, damn, maybe they did seize it. Holy shit.
No.
Because, like, that's all you see. That's all. It's, dang.
Well, but you know what? Okay, so there's two, even if you don't believe, so Sartorial Shooter, you can find him on now he's on Twitter, at Alpha Era, I believe is his Twitter account. Yeah. Very, very close friend of Andrew's, friend of mine as well. He has the Bugatti in his driveway, whatever.
Right.
Now, even if you don't believe him saying that, here's two other, things you should look at to consider whether or not that's true or not.
Right.
One, if the Bugatti was actually seized, you would see photos of it getting seized everywhere on the internet.
Right.
That would go viral. I guarantee that would go viral. And I guarantee if they'd seized it, they'd have press there to capture it.
Right.
Right. And two, why would Andrew take his Bugatti to Romania in the middle of the winter? The middle of Romanian winter when it's
mud season.
Right.
Yeah.
Why would he do that when he could drive it around, like keep it in Dubai where it's warm, where you can actually drive it and everything, right? So just a little bit of critical reasoning makes it very obvious that these are complete fabrications.
Right.
So to me, and the number of people who kind of believed, like jumped on that immediately and immediately believed it.
Yeah.
You gotta use your critical reasoning, guys.
Yeah. Because
otherwise it's so easy for media outlets to try and fabricate consensus and fabricate like a narrative. It's so easy for them to push a narrative and have because the vast majority of people will just believe what they see on face value. They won't question it at all. And in a large part, that's why they're trying to go after Andrews, because he tells young men to question the narrative that's constantly being pushed down their throat.
Right. The only reason you watch the news is to see what they're trying to push you.
Yeah.
It's that, and this is like the weirdest time too, because he has always, like, Andrew's always been like the person to, like, speak against the Matrix and and be like being Morpheus. But this is like the first time we haven't had Morpheus there, and all outside of maybe like you or people who really, really like hung out with him and like know him and stuff and have contacts with people. Most people, like, all they have to go on now because the person who tells the truth isn't there to tell the truth.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, there's only lies now. Now you don't know what to believe.
Yeah, and it was we mentioned this before we went live.
Yeah.
It's funny the number of people who are now using. You go through Twitter or you go through YouTube and stuff. The number of people who are using the phrases like referring to people as a G, right, and the number of people who are using the phrase the Matrix or referring to like the powers that be as the Matrix, right? You guys all know that came from Andrew, right?
Yeah.
It all started with Andrew was the guy who coined all that stuff, and now everyone's just repeating it, not knowing where it came from. It all came from Andrew. It's like.
And then the greater fucking red pill as well, because I mean, like, we talk about the red and the blue pill. Rollo came up with that, and then the Matrix was Andrew, and so it's all an evolution of like what's going on and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
Absolutely. And it's like for anyone who's like, okay, maybe you don't like Andrew, maybe you don't like the way he speaks his points. Maybe you have a problem with that. Fine. doesn't make the guy guilty.
Right.
Just because you don't like him doesn't make him guilty.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've personally hung out with this guy for extended periods of time, weeks on end, no cameras around, just the boys hanging out, like being honest with each other.
Yeah.
This Andrew and Tristan are not human traffickers.
Yeah.
It's you when you're around someone long enough, you know who they are. You know the person's character. You know their values. You know their worldviews. These guys are not bad people. They're not human traffickers. It's complete fabrication.
Yeah.
And it's really lovely to see the people who have come out and defended him, like publicly, put their reputation on the line and gone out and defended him. I really like seeing that because and it's all guys who know him personally,
right?
Who are doing that really.
People that would actually, just like your family would vouch for you as well. You know what I mean? Like shout out to Fresh and Fit and everyone. Those guys have been championing that legal mindset as well. You know, there's been a lot of people out there. The whole red. I mean, this has been like one of these events that kind of like brought back the red pill. It almost feels like that sort of event that happened when what's his name. Donovan brought back the CME, and the whole red pill got together, and then from there it kind of like launched off from there. This is kind of another event where everyone's getting back together and saying like, this is a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. It's interesting what's happened in the last year. I mean, and Andrew's been a giant part of this, but like the red pill has basically gone mainstream.
Yeah.
Over the course of the last year, and it's funny because I just went back to Australia.
Right.
Spent a few weeks there, surprised the family for Christmas, and I reconnected with some old friends from different sort of places, I reconnected with some guys from high school, I reconnected with some guys from university, some guys from my old school, like pickup days when I would just, run around clubs and bars and hitting on women and stuff.
Yeah. All win, man.
But the funny thing I noticed was the kinds of men who are like red pill now.
Yeah.
In terms of, okay, they understand female nature, but they also understand that they're being lied to.
Yeah.
By most mainstream media. Like they understand the propaganda that's trying to be shoved down their throat. There's a massive correlation between guys who start off by getting red pilled on women,
right,
and then they're red pilled on everything else. Like the starting point always seems to be understanding female nature.
Yeah.
And then they start to understand, like what inflation and the Federal Reserve, all this shit is complete like screwing us over.
Yeah, it's horseshit. Yeah.
And then the media is lying to us all the time, and it's propagating a certain narrative because they want to manufacture consensus. But the basis, like all the guys that I saw who either bought the lie or didn't buy the lie, it was clearly separated by dudes who started off with like red pill or pickup, and understanding women first, and then everything else becomes so much more clear.
So do you think it's more or less because obviously one side of the guys who completely fell for it hook, line, and sinker, and it wasn't working anymore for them, that like it was because like everything's like if this is a lie, what else is a lie?
Yeah.
Or do you also think it's because like guys who already kind of figured that out already, kind of had girls, pussy already kind of figured out, and then it's like, what else do I do? And they started thinking about things. You think, or can you think it's a mixture of two?
It's probably a mixture of two, but I think it's probably more the first, where it's like, because you have to, to get red pilled on like anything,
right?
And especially what guys get into like getting red pilled on women is because they have a problem. They can't get chicks, right?
Yeah.
So there's an aching, burning problem they need to solve. So they'll sacrifice their entire worldview, and they'll completely flip their worldview on its head to solve that problem, because it's a biological reproductive problem, right? It's really at the core of men. So once you've completely turned your worldview upside down or completely redone your worldview, that allows you to admit that you were wrong about something.
Right.
And if you can admit that you were wrong about, female nature or what girls really want, okay, well then it's a lot easier for you to admit that you were maybe wrong about the financial system, or you were maybe wrong about, politics, or you were maybe wrong about this and that. So it really comes down to like, if you're humble enough to admit that you were fooled.
Yeah.
Because most people aren't. Most people will defend a narrative so much just to avoid having to have the difficult conversation with themselves that they were wrong about something.
Right.
I think COVID's a perfect example of that.
I think that woke up a lot of people, and it's sort of the sort of thing where like anytime somebody gets this sort of like reaction, like I think COVID's kind of woken up a lot of people to like, I think that's a lie, that's a lie. And then with Andrew Tate kind of being in the news right now, and especially we had this whole blow up season of like 2021, that like this is bullshit. And then I mean, if you actually think about it, the whole I shouldn't even say COVID, the whole Android 19 sort of epidemic that happened in 2020, he was really like the first person that was like, you know, he was in fucking Sweden, or he was in, you know, he's over there fucking partying it up and stuff. He's like, where is it?
Yeah.
Where is it? Right. And he was kind of like, he was one of the first people that like really was like, this is bullshit.
And he was pushing that out through social media the whole time.
Right.
Very consistent with that.
Very consistent. So the people who kind of like already felt, I mean, I think most people, even my, like I had aunts and stuff that was like, come on, this is horse shit. Right. Like, and you know, when you have this intrinsic feeling like this is bullshit, and then on top of that, then you start looking for like, who else thinks this is bullshit, and then you see, oh look, there's Andrew, and then wow, he's making a lot of sense. And so it's like, wait, women are like, wait, what? And then wow, it just keeps going further and further. And then, you know, when, I mean, obviously you know this about Andrew and stuff, like he really, you know, he really like, if what are you gonna be talking about besides money with guys? Yeah.
He always talks about money, man.
Yeah.
But that's talking about this whole COVID thing again. Back in Australia, I was blown away because I would have thought, having been in America,
yeah,
you know, especially, I mean, I've been in Florida, so like we basically had no restrictions. Hey. Fantastic. But seeing what was happening back in Australia, my home country, seeing how much everyone was locked down, especially in Melbourne.
And I got a question for you as an Australian as well. Well,
I was blown away when I went back to see the amount of people who were still defending the narrative,
right, and
still like literally, like at Christmas, I had like my auntie was like, "Oh, your uncle tested positive. He's got to wear a mask and sit like 6 feet away from you." I'm like, what the? I went up and hugged my uncle. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I'm going to hug my uncle.
Yeah.
Like, this is bullshit. But people were still defending that. And the other thing I noticed, this is ridiculous. On the flight back from Australia to America, I'm sitting in business class, and the guy sitting next to me, not wearing a mask the entire time. We're probably at 5-10 minutes away from landing.
Yeah.
Puts a mask on and then takes a selfie, and then takes the mask off again. And to me, that explains a lot of it. It's this virtue signaling bullshit that people want, these little virtue signaling brownie points from everyone else. Look at me. I have the Ukrainian flag in my bio. I have BLM in my Twitter bio or whatever. Yeah. Like, I wear a mask on a plane even though I'm in private. I'm in business class. Like, bullshit. You're so full of crap. You don't even believe your own shit. Yeah. You're just repeating a narrative to be accepted,
right,
and not be cast out by what mainstream society.
And these people are everywhere in the crypto space. These people are like token founders, or just people that are really like, you know, big, like people with influence and stuff, and they act like, oh no, I'm really in it for the technology. I really believe in this, when they're in it for the money, and they're not, and they're just not being truthful. I mean, that's okay to say you're in it for the money, but it's like, oh, this is really cool technology. I think because it's so cool, I think it's going to do very well, and I'm going to do well. That's half the time I think that's what we want, and then that's why when you hear anyone actually saying the truth, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Now the question I had for you in terms of like as an Australian, because you would really have a good like sort of sense for this. Now I've been watching what's been going on with Australia for a long time in terms of, you know, I've always been kind of like in not anti-Chinese Chinese people, but anti-Chinese government, and obviously they've been buying property there. The Australian government owes a lot of money to China, and I was seeing a lot of videos, not this year, but early last year, of basically them going full commando lockdown and people and like fucking people up outside their house for if they wouldn't stay in. Mm-hmm. And that seemed more like, was that more like the Australian government doing it to themselves, or pressure under China, you think? I
think it was pressure under China, because you look at how similar, you know, in particular Victoria's, where Melbourne is, right?
Yeah.
The response of that state, how similar that is to the response in China, right?
Right. And
then think about, Australia is owned by the Chinese. Like the real estate in Melbourne, the real estate in Sydney, the real estate in Perth, like it's all, tons of it is owned by Chinese investors.
Right.
And then you also like, China is the biggest trading partner with Australia. We export all the coal that we mine there.
coal, steel, copper. I mean,
Tons of
all
stuff.
the metal. All the metal.
It's all exported to China, right? So think about that, and then think about, okay, well, who is probably, giving payouts to politicians in Australia? It's probably going to be the Chinese.
No, but politicians don't take payouts, bro. Come
Yeah,
on.
of course not.
Of course, man. What are you talking? We're talking crazy now,
That's why Nancy Pelosi is the best investor of all time.
Yo, that's pretty base shit.
she's unbeatable, man.
Unbeatable. But she just stepped down, and she's out of so she just now that she's left, she's down like 20% on the year.
Yeah. Magical somehow.
We're gonna.
Oh, look, she was on a good run. Miguel.
She's gonna. Hey, it doesn't last forever, you guys.
But you take into consideration how much of real estate in Australia is owned by Chinese.
Right.
Take into consideration that it's their major export, major customer for exports.
Yes.
Also, Australia's, I think, third biggest export is actually education. Yeah, like foreign students in universities.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of our biggest industries. And
you mean Chinese to? Okay, got it.
Like,
okay.
as in, like, students coming to Australia to study.
Got
Because Australians get, like, some kind of, like, loan. So Australians can go to university on, like, a loan and not pay up front. But international students have to pay up front. So international students are a massive
buku money.
Massive money. And the vast majority of them come from China.
Got it.
Vast majority. Even I went back to my old university and I was just walking around the campus and vending machines are in Chinese now. And I was like, wow, that's changed. That was like, when did I leave? When I was 21, 22?
This is what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for like a well-traveled Australian guy. Right. You know what I mean? Like an Aussie. You know what I mean? But like,
that's changed.
That.
But what else was there was another thing I noticed. So we had the vending machines changed. Oh yeah, and this has happened as well. There's been instances in Australian universities. So you'll have like the Chinese Student Society, for example, at the University of Sydney.
The Lotus things, right? Or the Buddhist thing.
They're just like, you'll have all kinds of student societies in every university, right? Especially around Australia. So you'll have like fan clubs for this, fan clubs for that, like whatever. But there's always a Chinese Student Society on every campus in Australia, and there's been instances where Chinese students have been, say, questioning the Chinese Communist Party,
right?
Or expressing opinions against them.
Yeah.
Not saying that, not agreeing with the Chinese Communist Party, and then their families back in China get in trouble. Whoa. Because somebody in the Chinese student organization is snitching on them back to someone back home.
Got it.
There's been multiple instances of that happening at universities in Australia. So that gives you an understanding of like how much power and influence there is, like, or how much connection there is rather between Australia and China. And is it really that much of a surprise then that Australia went full totalitarian mode during
lockdowns
and stuff?
Yeah.
To me, it really isn't. Yeah, I mean, in comparison to, say, like America.
Right, which wasn't. I mean, California. They tried to do. I mean, even in California, there was lockdowns, but it kind of was a joke as well. But like compared to Florida, because I got to go to both, and Florida was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. That's
why I moved. I was in LA, and I moved from LA to Miami for that exact reason. I was like, well, screw this. I ain't staying here. I put all my stuff in my car and drove the hell across the country.
Right.
Not a chance.
And now, I mean, you've been traveling all over the place now as well. It's kind of, this is kind of a cool thing. I mean, if you can travel, you guys travel. Just check out the world and everything like that. And it's kind of crazy. You can get so much. There's this whole what's it called? Like, you can just as long if your work is online, you can pretty much work anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just a camera and internet connection, and then let's go. Yeah.
I want to touch back on a couple of things with the whole Andrew situation.
Yeah, let's go back to it.
I want to make sure we cover all the bases. But there was a couple of things I wanted to bring up as well. And there was, so there's, in this case, I believe there's supposed to be like six alleged female victims of human trafficking or whatever.
Right.
In this case. And the funny thing was, two of them went on Romanian TV. And there's you can find clips of this on Twitter.
Yeah.
Two of them went on Romanian TV complaining that they were being labeled as victims and defending Andrew.
Right. It's
like two of the six girls that are involved in the prosecution's case are already defending Andrew.
Right.
And it's like, come on. Like how much more you need to see that this is a clear clown show. And then the other thing that happened recently was Vice. I don't know if you know about this. Vice came out with a hit piece on it.
Yeah.
So I was there in Romania when Vice, at the event that Vice were filming at.
Really?
I was there in person. And I saw firsthand how well they treated the journalist who came out to interview. Everybody on Andrew's...
They did a stream with him, right?
Yeah. So the journalist went to the house, did a stream in Andrew's studio. Then they sat him down and interviewed him in his house. But then he went to this event where Andrew put on basically a cage match.
Yeah.
With war room guys and professional fighters.
Right.
And this Vice journalist was one of the guys who he stepped into the cage and fought as well. And all the guys at the event, everyone supported him. Everyone cheered him on. He got a standing ovation. We wanted to show, who...
The support. Yeah.
This is the community that Andrew's built. Right? A bunch of guys who support each other, who look out for each other, who encourage each other to do what's best for them, to encourage each other to grow, right? And they didn't release the documentary.
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, this might come out within a month. And everybody on Andrew's team knew they would try and spin this somehow in a negative way, because that's what Vice does. If anyone at this point, if you think Vice is somehow fair and unbiased journalism, you are delusional.
Yeah.
And you can see this by looking at, having been there in person, the way they cut and stitch the clips of them interviewing Andrew together.
Right.
It's so obviously stitched together to make a specific narrative, right?
Right.
But it's curious how either they weren't ever going to publish it at all because they couldn't find a way to make Andrew look bad at the time. And now with these allegations and stuff coming out, all of a sudden they've found the time to release this documentary and frame it in such a way.
I had almost forgotten that there was even a Vice anything, because I just remembered they were doing a stream together, and then it just kind of disappeared.
Yeah. But they waited until something like this came along.
Wow.
And to me, that's it. Yeah, journalistic integrity doesn't seem to really exist. Anymore. And there's definitely not, unbiased journalism sure as hell doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Especially when it comes to Andrew. Now, there was one or two other things I wanted to throw out here.
VR Nuggets has a great quote right here. The system hates Tate, Trump, and crypto.
Damn right.
Heck yeah, man.
Oh, one thing I will say though is that, and this actually comes from our friend Sartorial Shooter. If people have been messaging saying that they're planning on protesting in the streets out in Romania or whatever, but if anyone's going to protest on behalf of Andrew, please keep it peaceful. That's 100% something that Andrew would agree with. We're not Black Lives Matter rioters. We're not going to burn things down and start a riot. So please be respectful and don't go hurting anyone and causing any damage.
Right.
We talked about the Bugatti. We talked about
the Bugatti.
Oh, this. Their lawyer actually put out a video because the defense lawyer for the Tates did a full-length interview on Romanian TV, and there's an English translation you can find as well.
Okay.
But one of the interesting pieces that came out of his disposition was from the reasoned conclusion of the judge. I'm just reading directly from the quotes here. The reasoned conclusion of the judge of rights and liberties of the Bucharest court. It is very clear that such a crime is not supported and that there are no evidentiary elements to support this crime, which is why the judge of rights and liberties does not have the suspicion reasonable that this act could be held responsible for any of the defendants. And that's the judge saying that.
Right.
But, okay, so you might be asking, well, why are they not, why are they still in detention?
Yeah.
And it's the same reason that they got detained in the first place. This is a stitch-up job.
Yeah.
Very clearly. Now, there's one more thing I wanted to touch on here, and that was a girl by the name of Eliza Blue, who's a big activist on Twitter. She's a human trafficking survivor advocate. And I'm a big fan of Eliza Blue. I just want to state this clearly. So for the last few years, Eliza's been heavily pushing to try and get all the child abuse material taken off Twitter.
Right.
She's a very strong advocate for, trafficking survivors and stuff. She does fantastic work. However, in this particular case, she's got it wrong, unfortunately. Yeah. And I can understand. I will kind of go into a little bit of why I think this is the case. But there was one funny little quote from her statement I wanted to read out, which says something like, is it just it's the statement from Eliza, is it just a coincidence that the people speaking up for him, Andrew Tate, have almost all been photographed with him. Should there be a public list of the high-profile visitors to his compound in Romania? That would include people like me, Fresh and Fit, Sneeko, Justin. Should there be a public list of high-profile visitors to his compound in Romania where Tate's harem of coerced women may have been obliged to provide them whatever pleasures they desired? So apparently, just because we hang out with Andrew at his house, we must be involved in human trafficking orgies or something.
Dude, he brainwashed you, of course.
Oh, apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hypnotized, bro.
I wasn't aware. I wasn't even aware that I was doing that. But to me, that is like, it's a good example of how people can just leap to conclusions.
Right.
And it's you know, I don't even like, I've got no ill will towards Eliza, and I don't really blame her for like jumping to conclusions like this, because you know, if I'd seen a story like this about like anyone who went to Epstein's Island,
right,
I'm probably thinking a similar thing.
Right.
But I'm just here to tell Eliza that, look, I respect her work and I respect what she does, but unfortunately, Eliza, you've got it very, very wrong on this instance. Now, here's the reason why I think she's got it why I think she's kind of forced to take a position like this.
Yeah.
Because her whole shtick is being a human trafficking survivor advocate.
Yeah.
And apparently, I think some of the girls who are involved in the prosecution's case have contacted her and been in touch with her.
Oh, shit.
And so, okay, well, she's kind of in a spot where she's like, she kind of has to believe the women.
Yeah.
She's in a spot where she kind of has to. And for anyone, like, this is why, this might sound bad, but this is why you shouldn't believe all women.
Right.
I mean, like, we've had numerous examples of this kind of thing in the last year. I mean, well, we literally had one with Andrew and Tristan like 6 months ago. Right. Where the police raided their house. Yep. And it was all, like, on suspicion of kidnapping. And all it was an American chick who was at their house seeing Tristan, basically. Her boyfriend called her up, saw that she was at, like, she posted stuff on social media, so he knew she was at Tate's mansion. Right. Because it's a very distinctive house. It's like, what are you doing there? And she told her boyfriend back in America, oh, I'm being forced to be here. I didn't want to be here. Basically lying her ass off because she's cheating on him.
Because she's cheating, yeah.
She's cheating on his ass. And then he calls the American embassy, and the American embassy gets involved. Okay, like, that's example one. We have Johnny Depp and Amber Heard as another example of a woman lying her ass off. We also have the Kavanaugh case from a couple of years ago. There's another example. And I'm not saying every woman is lying all the fucking time. I'm saying don't believe everything you hear at first glance. You have to look at this stuff with a critical mind.
Innocent before proven guilty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's also like, people might ask, okay, well, the very common response to that statement is, well, why would any woman lie about this? That's a very, very common rebuttal to this argument. Like, why would any woman lie about that? Right. Well, why did Amber Heard lie?
Right.
Why?
Which is crazy. No.
Well, but it's people underestimate two things. They underestimate how much women value attention. Yeah. They will literally do damn near anything to get attention, right? And two, they massively undervalue the wrath of a woman scorned. I'm pretty sure, I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure some of the couple of these women who are involved in the prosecution's case with Andrew are girls who used to work in the webcam studio, I think. And or they might be like ex-flames, ex-girlfriends or whatever. Yeah. Okay, like you fire a girl or you break up with a girl, and he's like the top G. He's like literally the most Googled man on the planet. He's a multimillionaire. He's jacked. Like he's everything that a girl kind of wants her to do.
Top, yeah.
And she's like, he rejected me. God damn it! Like, okay, she's gonna want to try and get back out of that, out of just bitterness. Right. Like there's a motive. Is all I'm giving you guys. You know what I'm just saying? Yeah. It's like. So if anyone ever asks, like, why would a woman lie about that sort of thing? Well, there's a couple of reasons why she would. Yeah. It's plain and simple. And because, for the most part, a lot of women get away with it. Yeah. You know? And I'm not sitting here trying to defend, like, you know, sexual assault or human trafficking or rape or anything. I'm not defending any of that crap. Yeah. I think, and Andrew would say the same thing. Andrew would say you should punish rapists to the full extent of the law. But Andrew and Tristan are not rapists. Right. They are just not. I can guarantee you that. I know these men. These men do not need to human traffic somebody. They don't need, you do not understand the abundance of women that these two men have. Like, knocking their gates down, like, to try and get to these guys, like, to try and get access to these two men. These aren't the kind of guys that need to be out there, like, you know, manipulating women, like human trafficking, like sexually assaulting women.
Using super negative dark triad strategies and shit.
It's just absurd. And that's what one of the things that Andrew preaches is, look, get your shit together.
Right.
Get in shape, make money, like, be physically capable.
Yeah.
And okay, well, this is why women are attracted to him, because all the things he preaches young men to do will help them become attractive to women in the first place.
Right.
And that's one more thing I wanted to just briefly touch on was like the reason. Okay, I tweeted something out a few weeks ago, whatever, defending these guys, and it was interesting looking through all the comments of people who are very, very clearly, haters of the Tate brothers. And a very common comment would be like, okay, well, why would anyone want to stitch these guys up?
Yeah.
Like, what possible reason could they have? Like, surely they're not that big of a threat to the narrative. Yeah. You guys don't understand how influential Andrew is amongst young men.
Yeah.
Probably the most well-recognized celebrity on the planet for boys from like, or young men, say from like 22 to like 16.
Yeah.
He's probably the most recognized public figure for them right now. And one of the most influential, which I think is a very, very good thing. But the powers that be don't want a guy like Andrew speaking to millions of young men, because what is he teaching them? He's teaching them, okay, avoid debt slavery. Don't go into massive debt with a student loan.
Right.
That's a silly idea. You're not going to make a return on that investment. Don't go fight in pointless wars. Don't run off to die for a
useless cause.
For a completely useless cause. Don't go running off so that all these crooked politicians and Lockheed Martin can all just sit there and make profit off of your ass. Your dead ass, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't go do that. Okay, great. Break free of government controls. Resist all this COVID lockdown bullshit they've been trying to push. Resist all this forced vaccination stuff they've been trying to push. Resisting these.
Can you share my screen for a second?
These government opinions, right?
And you meant this one right here, right?
Yeah, it's a bit further down here. Yeah. It's like it's a follow up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like resist mainstream media brainwashing, right? All the propaganda they're trying to push down there, the manufactured consent they're trying to make, the consensus they're trying to manufacture through mainstream media. And he's also teaching them to have standards in relationships. Heaven forbid that you actually
standards.
Heaven forbid you actually want to be with a woman who's pleasant and delightful and thinks you're the man,
right?
Rather than being with someone who's disagreeable and kind of bitchy and annoying. It's his message is overwhelmingly positive, and I don't really see. Yeah, you might not like the way that he communicates it, because Andrew communicates like through tough love, I guess. Or Andrew teaches by pushing your buttons.
Right.
The way Andrew teaches is like, hey, like I'm jacked, I'm rich, I've got these cars, I've got these women. You're a brokey, you're a loser.
Right.
This should piss you off.
Yeah.
And inspire you to prove me wrong and to do better. That's the way Andrew teaches.
Remember that story he would say? This I think I haven't heard him say it in a long time, but this is a story back in the day where he would say about when he was really young, he saw these Ferraris pass by and stuff at the school and stuff, and he was like, "Why do those assholes have Ferraris?
Yeah.
Like why do they get to have Ferraris and I don't?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And you should, it's this whole thing of like, that's why they tell you, I mean, this is like a Dan Pena thing right here. They tell, like, go to the big ass house, go check it out, go sit in the car, go ask, like, if you don't have like some sort of mental model of like, wow, this shit's actually real, like, I'm actually in one right now, you won't try to ascend, or you won't try to like go, like I teach my guys, like, you won't see the top of Olympus, you won't go to Olympus.
Yeah.
If you can't, because people have terrible imaginations, you know what I mean?
Oh man, it's honestly for me, the last 2 years, I've done quite well monetarily, right, financially, compared to how I was the rest of my life, and it's mind blowing, like how your reality changes when you're around dudes who are making like $1 million a day.
It's fucking crazy, man.
What you think, like the amount, at least financially, right? The amount, like this actually applies for everything, really.
Yeah.
The amount of money that is out there, the ways that people are making money, until you expose yourself to it and get close to it and see it up front, it's like, now I see that this is possible. This is a reality I can live in.
Right.
But prior to that, you didn't even think it was a possibility. The only way people can make the money is they must be scammers. They must be
drug dealers, or they're doing bad stuff. Yeah,
they must be, because there's no way that someone could have that kind of lifestyle and be an honest businessman.
And this is another fucking great, like, dude, Tate Andrews got some crazy banger quotes right here. Like, he's got some banger quotes and shit. Like, Isn't it funny when you see a guy he's like the petrol station? You see him at the guy in a petrol station and stuff, and he's in a Lamborghini and stuff. You don't think he's a teacher.
Yeah.
You think he's automatically doing something bad.
Yeah.
Or he's an entrepreneur or something, or a tech guy.
Yeah. That's because they don't like. School doesn't prepare you to make money.
No.
School and university don't set you up to be financially successful. They set you up to be a wage slave. They set you up to be a tax slave.
Yeah.
That's what it's engineered for.
They were originally set up to be, you guys were supposed to be factory workers.
Yeah.
That's what the entire school system was. That's why there's even bells for lunch and dinner in between class. That's just to give you a 15-minute smoke break or lunch. It was basically to get the kids used to the factory lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And man, it is. I mean, our system really hasn't even evolved. I mean, basically, you need some basic math. You need to read and write a little bit, and from there, it just gets into semantics. From there, they don't teach you anything anymore. I mean, they don't even teach you real history.
No.
Either.
God, no.
No.
People would be far better off, young men especially, would be far better off going out and learning a trade than above anything else.
100%. 100%.
Be a plumber. Be an electrician. Be a carpenter. Like, these things are actual real-world skills that are practical and people need, and you can't be automated away. You can't be replaced by a robot like that.
An entire generation, because of college now, I'm not saying college is bad, but an entire generation got pushed into white-collar work, and there really wasn't the demand for it.
Yeah.
And I graduated high school in 2009. All the work, like all the housing market, everything, the entire economy fucking collapsed. I had cousins that were older than me that graduated from college, and there was no jobs. There was nothing at all. Yeah, it was like all these fake promises and stuff. It was just basically let's go part. I mean, obviously everyone, a lot of people go to college, get the cutty.
Yeah, a little bit. It's basically a paid for your party.
Yeah,
that's all college really is. And this is another Andrew quote, I believe. He talked about university is the only thing that's like. How did he phrase it? It's like double inflation. I think that's how he phrased it. So the price is increasing, right, every year on year on year. Yeah. But the value you get for that price is decreasing because there's more graduates and less jobs.
Yeah, it's less scarce. Yeah, inflation.
It's double inflation. It's doubly inflated.
That's bars, man. Hit the Pepe on that. That was heat. Because when you work in the trades, you can't be a dishonest guy because you start ripping a couple people off, you're done. That's it.
Bingo.
It's over. Even if a person intangibly is kind of like a cunt, he has to be sort of a bit more of a moral cunt, and because
a competent cunt.
A competent cunt, because it just lends, because like what happened was it was such a, normally, right, a lot of people, there was more people in the trades and less people in the white collar. And you had such a fucking massive push to push people into white collar that there was no blue collar. Yep. So it ended up the guys who ended up I felt this is how I felt as a kid. Or obviously my father was in construction and stuff. My whole family was in the whole trades and stuff. But they were pushing me so damn hard to go into like the white collar because the whole life get beat up after a while in the trades and stuff, right? Well, I wanted to be in the trades, and it was like this huge because they brainwash you for basically damn near 18 years. 15 years of your life, they're brainwashing you every day. Go to school, go to college, go to school, go to college. Oh, what college are you going to? You're not going to college? Are you stupid? Like, do you want to end up like this? You want to do you want to work at fucking 7-Eleven and shit? And no diss to that and stuff, but like, you want to be a fucking wage slave, and you're basically going to school to be a wage slave.
Yeah, with debt, with massive debt.
So what are we talking about here? So you had a whole generation, basically my generation, the millennial generation, got hyper tricked into going into college, and then most of them were choosing horrible degrees. Yeah. I mean, outside of the guy going for maybe like computer engineering or like in some engineering job.
I think the only degrees that are worth going to college for would be being a doctor.
Yeah.
Maybe being a doctor, being an engineer, like a civil engineer, maybe electrical engineer, something like high skill, high level engineering. Maybe lawyer.
Yeah,
that's really about it. Like even like IT, computer engineering, you can learn all that stuff. Like, one of my friends works for one of the top 10 cryptocurrency companies.
Yeah.
Totally self-taught.
Mm-hmm.
All he did was like just get online, start learning how to code, start practicing how to code, and he became so damn good at it that he now codes for like one of the top 10 crypto companies. But that's not from a college degree. That's all self-taught.
Right. And that's because this industry is so new right now. Right now, because there's no degree, there's no like, I have a PhD in cryptocurrency. You know, that doesn't really exist. There's cryptography, but it doesn't really translate that well over into crypto. But this industry is so brand new. It's such virgin territory. It is so the wild fucking west out right now that you can write your own ticket. If you just grab it, just go do it, grab it. You're now the expert. You're hired.
But every industry used to be like that.
Yeah.
Right? Every industry was like that from at the very, very beginning. Like, oh, there's this thing called like law. Right. I'm going to read books and I'm going to learn how to learn about the law system. Right. And I'm going to go and try and defend people. Or there's this thing called engineering. I'm going to read a bunch of stuff about engineering. I'm going to practice and learn mechanics and learn how an engine works and learn how this works. And I'm going to invent something. Like every industry didn't have this barrier to entry called a degree to begin with. The barrier to entry was hard work and learning.
Right.
To get into a field and actually practice it.
And dude, and then I started, fuck, man, you remind me of some crazy shit. So when I was, still living in California and I was like in the trades and stuff, there's this really kind of bullshit sort of like licensing system for tradesmen, right? Now, some of it I do believe there was actually like actual schools like where you would actually go here to really make sure that you know your craft. But there was a lot of ones there basically to keep competition down. Effectively, right? And it basically made it impossible where imagine like you actually worked in the trade for a lot of years, and then because you have the experience and you actually knew how to the jobs, you got the thing. It wasn't based off of merit; it was based off of who you knew. So you basically had to kiss ass to somebody else.
Yeah.
So you had to be someone's little slave for like 4 or 5 years, and then please re-sign my paper, please let me, please, and then you're just basically their bitch. And this happened. I know so many guys, man. It's so sad that like they worked for these guys for like, and like I know Justin's one of these G's who would sign the paper. You know what I mean? But like there are so many of these kind of the guys. I mean, like there's cunts everywhere, but like there's these guys in the trades that would just basically that cared. Oh, bro, don't worry, I'll sign for you, and it never fucking happened because they were just using them. And they'd get bitter and tired, and then they would just fuck off. Basically. It's sad, but that I mean, that's across all industries. But right now, we're in a virgin territory right now where you can write your own ticket right now. Like I know tons of guys that learned how to just code Solidity, which is like Ethereum's coding language. Instant $150,000 job right there. And then from there, they're actually doing multiple projects at the same time. They're making half of like I made a clip on YouTube about, you can just learn coding and crypto and stuff like that, and you can make a lot of money and bullshit, Miguel, this and this and this. Now all these reports are starting to come out about all these people who have 3 fucking jobs in coding and are making $900,000, $500,000, $400,000 a year. You can do it, but it's crazy work, right? You can't do it forever. Like I look at me like, you cannot do it forever. I know you can. But for those years when you're still young and you can push hard, fuck, man, 5 years of just going hard in the paint, pull that money together, and then from there you concentrate, you choose a job or just let go. Like, you can do it, man. There's these grinding years where like those mid 20 years and stuff where you can just, like, your body just can take anything. And you just got to take advantage. But most people fuck off those years,
Yep. Yeah. That's absolutely true.
Yep.
Should we talk about the few other topics that I mentioned?
Yeah. Let's get into it, man.
This is your area of expertise. You know a lot more about this than I do. What's going on right now with where do you want to start?
Whew. All right. I guess since we're already talking about, fuck it, I'm gonna say COVID anyway. Since we're talking about COVID already, fuck it, demonetized, right? Since we're talking about COVID already, the whole egg situation.
Yeah, eggs are now. There's a shortage of eggs in America apparently.
And let me tell you why. In 2020 and 2022. Randomly, there was all these fucking fires in all these food processing plants all over the United States. How the fuck did that happen?
I saw it today. I think it was 2 different major hatcheries burned down over the course of the last year.
Yeah.
Not recently. This happened last, but that's the time frame, right? Yeah. This happened last year, so now there's a shortage of eggs, right?
I kept seeing random little reports. 145,000 chickens just burned. Like I was like, wow, 145. And that's a lot of. If you actually know, like, if in this room right here, went 6, like you put 40 chickens, it's like, fuck, that's a lot.
It's a lot of chickens.
It's a lot of chickens, guys. But it's kind of this crazy thing where like, egg went crazy. Creatine, like same thing with creatine, right? I mean, that's more of a Germany thing, Germany and China sort of thing. But right now, like, you used to be able to buy like a little jar, like a decent sized jar of creatine for like fucking $6. It's going for like $45 if you're lucky. And now you're getting the low quality, like, kind of like bullshit side of it.
What do they even make creatine from? I don't know.
If I remember right, oh my god, I used to know this and stuff. I was so dorky with all this gym bro stuff and everything. But like, oh my god, I'm
just
so
trying
sorry.
to think. I'm just trying to think of the manufacturing process and what the starting ingredient is, and like, okay, what did they burn? What factor did they destroy at the very top of the supply chain to cause like creatine to be like 4 times the price?
I mean, it's basically a derivative of an energy source that it just increases a certain like energy source within the brain and the body and stuff like that, and then it also causes you to like hold more water in the muscle.
Yeah, that I know. That I do know.
Yeah. But there's like this brand called Creapure. Best creatine ever. I've used it for years. I love that stuff. And just easy, just dry scoop it, water, and let's go. The stuff that we're using now, which is like the original creatine monohydrate, the chalkiest shit ever. Like, oh my god. Like, literally, you can't do this stuff without, like, it looks like you spilled cocaine all over yourself. Like, it's crazy. Like the Germans figured it out how to, like, crystallize it. Just basically make it a little smaller, more like it's almost like you're taking salt.
Right.
And let's go, right? And it's still creatine monohydrate. And now we've got the cheap shit, and I'm sad, down bad right now. But it still works, you know what I mean? But like you want to take creatine monohydrate and stuff. It's actually a really good. There's a lot of studies coming out because it's one of the most studied drugs that you actually can that's ever been done outside of like protein. Creatine monohydrate's like really good for people that or if you're afraid of getting like Alzheimer's and stuff like that. It is because it increases the ATP, the energy and stuff like that. It protects. It's neuroprotective. It's a great nootropic. It's good for you. I mean, dude, the benefits are insane. You know?
I saw a study once on mice. There was mice that were supplementing with creatine daily, and versus a mouse that wasn't supplementing with creatine daily. No other difference between the two mice. And the mouse that was getting creatine daily became jacked compared to the mice that wasn't. Because there is something in creatine that it either turns on or turns off some kind of regulator in the body, which either stops or starts like muscle growth. So basically, like consistent, like supplementing with creatine daily can actually like help keep you in shape.
Yeah, it dampens the oh my god, and I know what receptor you're talking about. It's basically the receptor that stops your muscle from like to stop growing. Basically, like it dampens it, so you start growing more muscle. It's not gonna be steroid level, but it's like it helps. Yeah.
It's good. It's good enough to make a mouse jacked. Let's just say that. if we had Jay Campbell in here, I mean Jay Campbell or
O'Neill.
Yeah, or Schwarzenegger or something like any one of these experts in here, they'd be able to tell us what's going on.
Jay Cutler.
Jay Cutler. That's what I was thinking of. Jay Cutler. If Jay Cutler was in here, we'd know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
But eggs are running out, and
myostatin.
That's it.
Myostatin.
It's a myostatin inhibitor.
Yes, sir.
Bam. We got it.
We got it, man.
There we go.
Yo, like, believe it or not, I was actually at one point. This is maybe like 6 years ago. I was considering to actually do like a fitness YouTube channel a long time ago. I wasn't as fat as I was. I was pretty in shape back in the day, and I was really considering. I was just so into the supplement game back in the day. I just like, and that comes from like everyone's like, I want to get as jacked as possible without using steroids, But now the whole TRT thing is getting like, everyone like basically everyone's on TRT, and and I think it's a really good thing for a lot of people actually. Yeah. And it's just if done safely, of course, But some people just fucking deca. Let's go.
Getting deca dick.
Deca dick. That's all you got to do to stop people from taking deca. Is like, yo, it kills your dick. I don't want it, bro. I don't want it anymore. No, thank you.
That'll turn guys off instantly.
But
so they burned down egg factories. Eggs are in shortage now. Super hard to get them. The price is jacked up. And now Biden's also talking about like making outlawing gas stoves.
Bro, you sent me. That was the one I didn't know about, and I literally looked at. I was like, "What bullshit?" Or what? I still had family at the house. I told them this, and like literally, I had like Latinas cooking tamales for me on a gas stove, and they were like, "What?" It's like I was like, "Vas a ir a la cárcel, ¿sabes por qué? Estás cocinando." It's like, what? What are you talking about? And like, they were just messing with them and stuff like that. It's literally, and it has a lot to do with, basically natural gas. Basically, they're trying to go like carbon net free, basically no carbon and everything like that. Because right now we are the leader in fracking. When you frack, you get basically the sweetest, purest sort of like oil that comes out, which basically it's like, remember it's like sweet light. sweet light crude, which is pretty much it just takes the minimum amount of processing in order to get regular gasoline. Really easy stuff. It's basically the easiest stuff to actually translate into gasoline. But the way they do fracking is that they break up the rocks. They essentially set off. They go instead of drilling straight down like this, they go horizontally, and then from there they end up putting like these little depth charges and cracking the rock. And then what happens is it kind of leaks out all this gasoline, but it also leaks out a shit ton of gas. So what happens is because we're the leader in fracking, we have as a byproduct like a waste product, which is natural gas. We have so much natural gas that we have to light it on fire.
Damn.
So it's like fuck. We like storage capacity hits, and then you can literally look from space and stuff. A lot of like North Dakota is literally like flash, like there's lighting all over because they literally are just lighting this shit in the air.
Damn.
Because we have that much natural gas. And so what's going on is the United States is like and hopefully this happens, is developing these kind of transportation systems in order to liquefy natural gas down so we can actually start like transporting around the world. Because now I don't know the price of natural gas in Japan, but Japan was going to be one of the main places they were going to send it. Last time I looked, it was like the United States was like $1.25 for the whatever the cubic amount was, right? Japan is paying like $7 to $9. So we could easily transport and stuff, but only in the United States could you actually do it because it's such a technologically advanced process because you have to freeze it down in order to get it to liquefy, and then from there you have this really pressurized sort of pipe to then travel it across like the United States over to a port where you then from there you have to specialize. So it's a huge cash crop. But it takes a lot of investment.
Very intensive
and very technological. So most countries, they could do fracking, but they could not have the actual industry the United States has. So the United States is actually in a huge position to actually take advantage of that. And in Texas, Texas actually could transport it and stuff. But most of the fracking fields are actually in like North Dakota and it's kind of in the center part of the United States. So it has to travel. And then like there's this whole like Keystone pipeline sort of, or the XL pipeline sort of thing. That has to do with like basically it crosses through some Native American territory, as well as like there's some political stuff with it where like the United States has been trying to like kind of get the Canadian government under its thumb a little bit. So the United States has been kind of like, I think through Obama, I think Trump was going to let it go through a little bit, and then Biden kind of like axed it and stuff.
Right.
Basically, this pipeline was basically what it does is it pretty much allows crude from Canada to come down to the United States to be sold in the market, right? Because that pipeline's not going there, like the Canadian government is like struggling to pay their bills right now. Yeah, there's just so much shit if you actually like. I'm sorry, I went to those.
I love learning about this stuff.
Yeah, but there's it's kind of a crazy thing. So this is one of the reasons why actually the Canadian economy has been doing really bad, as well as their currency has been doing terrible. I think like now don't quote me on this. Like this is just the last time I looked. It was like for every US dollar, it's 71 cents for a Canadian dollar. It's usually been closer to 80 to 90 cents or something like that. And it's sometimes been parallel, but not very often. It has to do just because they don't have that oil money coming in.
Yeah.
And the thing is when when there's this huge demand, the United States then has to sell US dollars to buy Canadian dollars and then buy the oil and stuff. And that props up the Canadian dollar because everything in the world, from crypto and everything, it's all about demand, attention, right? Like if you're popping, and you're making money because you have so much attention. Like literally, if everyone in the world was like, "Fuck sterling," oh my god, that's sterling right there, right? You could make a $2 fucking watch on yourself, and like that's a sterling watch, and everyone's like, "Dude, I gotta have it." There's only 500, and you sell them for like buku bucks.
Yeah,
it's all about attention. So it's supply and demand. So when there's so much, they have a ton of supply, but the demand just went away. Now they're in this kind of bind right now, and things are not doing well, but at the end of the day, they still are. I mean, they're on the top of the United States here, and then Mexico as well. So they are a main trading partner. At some point, they're going to like allow that to get through. But there's like that's the real story. Then there's the public story, which is like the Native American. Now there is a story. The pipe it's going to cross Native American land, right? Yeah. But I know a little bit of money, moolah, and then casino money to allow stuff. It will get that through and stuff. But of course, like. I wouldn't be surprised the U.S. government is like talking to the Native American people on this side to be like, hey, like Jerry, don't make a little more noise and stuff like that. We'll give you concessions because there's political reasons for it. So so there's always like the real story. Like if you just look like what's helped me look at the world, especially as I learned about money, is just thinking everything in terms of is like macro and money. And then from there, you can kind of figure out everything else in between. Usually, if the money's right, usually the news and everything it goes in that direction. They'll find ways to like certain groups, like okay, fuck, we need to like stall this out because we want to hurt that economy. Okay, let's put a little money here. That's a real issue. Boom, let's put a little money here. Boom, yeah, we support you and stuff like that. Let's make a bunch of noise. And as soon as like okay, we're like okay, they've just conceded to some stuff we wanted. All right, yeah, and they're like oh look, the pipeline went through. There you go.
Yeah. Look at the incentives. It's politics are very, very easy to understand when you like, oh, why would a politician vote for this, or why would he push that bill forward, or why would he do this or that? It's very easy to understand that when you just look at the incentives and you look at, okay, well, who are they like? Are they on the board of what companies is this politician on the board of, or was on the board of previously?
Right.
Who do they know? Where do they used to work? Do they have buddies who used to work at Raytheon? Do they have buddies who used to work at Lockheed Martin? Do they have buddies who used to work at JP Morgan?
Yeah.
Like things like this. It's very. Then you can trace. Okay, why would he push this bill forward? Oh, here's the clear monetary incentive for this guy.
Yeah.
To push something like this, or for these people to try and, what's it called in America where lobbyists pay off politicians to like get stuff pushed through, right? It's politics is best politics has nothing to do with the public good.
No,
nothing.
It's about money.
It's all about lining the pockets of people. That's all it's about. And when you look at politics through that lens, it all makes a lot more sense. Yeah. So Michael, I'm curious as to why do you think Biden is pushing this gas stove, banning gas stoves angle?
It's basically to there's this whole greenie move, the greenie movement.
So you think it's a climate change?
It's a climate change sort of stuff, but there's actually a financial incentive behind it, which is the carbon credit system.
Right.
So if they push the carbon credit system, and there's been a bunch of cryptos that have tried this and stuff, and it's just not ready yet. But basically, they basically created another way to incentivize a whole bunch of nothing as well as tax.
Yeah, so there we go. There's your answer, right? Yeah. So they push through a carbon credit system. It's just another way they can tax people.
Yeah, and they control the system. So basically, like, okay, we've got the oil and the whole oil car industry mafia down pat. Cool.
Yeah.
Now we need to make the next one. So it's like, fuck, let's get everyone on electric. And then but the thing is, the reason electric's taken so long for it to come out is because they're really trying to monopolize sort of certain things, right? I mean, I don't believe the only reason we went into Afghanistan and stuff like that was because of like, the terrorist stuff and everything like that. There's some, I think in the 80s, right before, not right before the Soviet Union fell, but like basically like 5 or 6 years before they fell, the Soviet Union was fighting in Afghanistan, and they ended up surveying the largest deposit of lithium in the planet ever. Like it was like trillions of dollars of lithium. And then we came in there, and look at that. There's plenty of lithium there. But then from there, there's this huge other story that they found a huge amount of lithium and a bunch of rare earth metals in Mexico as well, right around all the drug cartel areas.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So there's some stories about like, some of the cartels being used to clear out certain places. So like, oh look, that's free land now.
So now you can come in and mine it. You know where the biggest lithium mines in the world are?
Where?
Southwest Western Australia, where I'm from. Where they're from? Greenbush. I'm not from there, but I'm down that area. Greenbush.
I claim it all now.
It used to be a tin mine.
A tin mine.
It used to be a big tin mine, and now it's just a giant open cut mine.
Yeah.
It's gonna end up being the biggest open cut mine in the world. I believe is the Kalgoorlie super pit where they mine gold.
Yeah.
This is gonna be bigger than that.
Kalgoorlie, just that name is insane.
That's the name of the town.
The Kalgoorlie.
But the Greenbushes lithium mine will end up being the biggest open cut pit mine on the whole planet, and it's just lithium. Like I think it's like 70% of the world supply comes from that one mine.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you met George Gammon, right? Yeah, we were in Miami with George Gammon. I mean, one thing when we were talking about on that stream was, he was right about this, he was right about the commodity story and stuff like because of all the stuff that's going on with the supply chain as well as like us pushing into electric, like. These metals are worth a ton of money now, as well as like because of the whole world having trouble because basically China and Russia kind of going offline because of the wars and stuff, and then also some problems there with like shutdowns there, and that's most of the COVID lockdown things going down in China are mostly based off of like revolutions and like strikes and shit. There's some crazy stuff like basically like there's a lot of the central part of China is basically farmers. And what happened, now this was kind of like 4 or 5 months ago when this happened, but basically a lot of the banks went under there. and basically $60 billion of savings got stolen basically from the Chinese farmers. Now imagine, like, now these people don't have the money to buy fertilizers, don't have the money to pay this and that, and so because even though it's communistic, it still is like it's paper, it's money, right? So there's there's starting to be some problems there. So like the whole country, like they're using a lot of these lockdowns to kind of like, oh, there's COVID right here, and then it's also the area where all the kind of the protests are going on, and they hit the police force, it hit them hard, and like shut it down basically because the country's like really in some big ass trouble right now. And then what they're doing is just locking down most of the country in order to like cement, like we're gonna end up going through some huge economic problems, but we'd rather be like the country of China instead of like three. Like normally China is like 3 countries or 4 countries.
Really?
Yeah, it's usually like, it's usually like 4 or 5 dynasties or 4 or 5 like emperors in there, and then they all kill each other, and then one guy takes over for 2 years, and then he dies, and then all splits off with the general. That's always like, look at Chinese history. It's literally like it's usually 3 to 4 countries in China, always, until one guy just like wins the big war, takes half of China, and then he comes and tries to steamroll the rest of them, and then he's like, he takes over the rest of China, and then a year later, 6 months later, yeah.
What else were we talking about? There was you can bring up tweets on this thing, can't you?
Oh yeah, of course.
There's a very funny Alexander, was it AOC? Alexander Ocasio-Cortez. She tweeted out something, and this it just illustrates my point about manufactured consensus and like the propaganda they will push.
I'm so happy I don't follow her. I just looked her up and I don't follow her.
I don't follow her either. I saw her through, I think it was Ian Smith.
Sure.
Ian Smith was the one who
share the screen, man. I think I got her up. So
there's one here about...
let me make...
Oh, there we go. That's the one, yeah, about gas.
Yeah.
Did you know that ongoing exposure to NO2 from gas stoves is linked to reduced cognitive performance? Like, they have to... Like, they'll push any bullshit to try and get the mass of the populace to go along with whatever narrative they want, right. whatever policy they're trying to push.
Do you want to know what my mother said? I told her about this today. She's like, so they want us to use electric stoves, so when the power goes out, we can't cook.
Bingo.
Whoo!
Yeah.
That was my mom, you guys.
Yep.
Within 2 seconds, she figured it out. She was like, so we have to use electric stoves, and if we use electric stoves and the power goes out, then we can't heat anything.
Yeah. Think about this. Like, let's go down like a rabbit hole here. Right?
Sure, of course.
Okay, because we know that CBDCs, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Central bank digital currencies are coming. Right. They're on the way, right?
On the way.
That's like the ultimate form of control for a government.
No savings.
Yeah.
That's the scary shit. No savings.
Yes, because I believe they already tried this. Or they've experimented a little bit with this in China, where it's like a digital yuan.
Yeah.
But you can't save with it. The money has an expiry date, so you have to spend it within, say, 30 or 60 days or whatever.
Sterling's plugged in, you guys, man. There's some guy that asked earlier, yo, is Sterling really in crypto? Yes, he is. You hear this man right now.
I know. I'm pretty keen, man. You can keep playing that.
All right, run the whole thing.
I love your memes. They're great. Okay, so we know like the end goal is like, because every government wants to establish more and more. Like, there's never been a government that is like, governments always go more authoritarian. They don't go less authoritarian. They never give up freedom. Like, they never give up control, rather.
Right.
Once they've established control, like
they want more.
They always get more. Like, they don't repeal. Like, what was the Patriot Act?
Yeah.
From like when 9/11 happened, they used it it was an excuse to pass through the Patriot Act, so they can spy on all your.
It was the NSA Act. That's what it was.
Yeah. That never got repealed.
No.
Like, this stuff never goes away. It always goes in one direction, right? So once they grab more power, great. They'll hold on to it. They won't repeal it, and they'll just keep pressing forward and forward. So we know it's all going in one direction, and that direction is getting closer to central bank digital currencies. Because the example was the Chinese one, which was played around with, and I believe it had an expiry date, so you literally couldn't have any savings, which is a terrifying idea.
Yeah.
and then think of the other things that's going to be linked to. It's going to be linked in China. They would link it to like their social credit score. They would link it to you'll eventually you'll have an individual personal emissions score.
Right.
Like it's all based around was it your mother? You said your mother, your grandmother?
My mother.
Your mother figured it out straight away.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if we have to cook on electric stoves, we can't cook on gas. They can turn off our. If the electricity goes out, we can't feed ourselves. Right. Okay. Your social credit score has gone down, man, because you questioned the government. Right. So we're going to cut off the electricity to your house. And now you can't spend your digital currency to buy any food either. And, it's like,
and no guns too. You can't have guns.
You definitely wouldn't have a gun. But that's probably the one thing that's keeping this country alive.
Yo, okay. Can I, right now I keep going back to Australia. Like that was so you guys have like the wildest one of the wildest founding stories. Like prison. There was so much prisons. There were so many prisoners in the UK that they had to ship them over to Australia. And obviously, it was kind of they would just throw anybody in jail back in the day. It wasn't really actual prisoners. But it
was actually a lot of. If I remember correctly, there was a lot of Irish trying to feed, basically stealing an apple here and there to try to feed their family and their kids, and they ended up getting shipped off to Australia,
to the fucking the kangaroo.
And think about that, like on a boat, that's a long ass. That's like 6 months at sea,
right?
Like in a prison ship, that would suck. But it wasn't all it was prisoners and then colonists, so it's both, a bit of mixture of both.
It probably was not completely on par, but kind of slave shippy-ish, yeah.
A little bit, kind of like indentured servitude, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, so you imagine those people, right? That would be like the number one people I would think that have guns. And you guys don't have guns, really.
We did. So before in Australia, when I was a kid, we had the Port Arthur massacre, which was this mass shooting that happened in Tasmania. I think it was, I don't know where,
was it a school shooting or something?
No, I think it was if I remember correctly, it might have been a McDonald's, actually. If I remember correctly, some dude basically walked in with an automatic weapon. I think it was an automatic weapon, and he shot a bunch of people, and that was it. And then within a few months, John Howard instituted the gun buyback scheme, and they confiscate they bought back all the firearms, and you own it. Now the only people that are allowed to have firearms in Australia are farmers. So my uncle has guns and stuff, but it's basically shotguns and 22s. That's basically it. That's all you're allowed to have, to kill parrots and kangaroos and shit, pests. But prior to that, Australians had a lot of firearms. Australians owned a lot of weapons, a lot. You think about it's like pioneer culture. It's the same as the Wild West of America. Australia, that was Australia.
I couldn't imagine living in Australia without a gun. I wouldn't travel anywhere without a Smith & Wesson 500. I wouldn't. That shit could drop an elephant, man.
I mean, everything's trying to kill you in Australia, so you need a gun. You need something to defend yourself against.
Yo, I'm scared of Komodo dragons, bro. Komodo dragons.
We don't have Komodo dragons.
Was that Komodo?
No, that's not. That's somewhere off South America.
Was it Tangier? No. Where am I thinking?
It's a different island.
Am I thinking of a different island?
Yeah.
Because you guys have a crazy ass island. You guys have a crazy ass.
Yeah.
Snakes are insane.
But to be fair, a gun ain't gonna do. Okay, spiders, try hitting that with a gun. Snake, you're going to be lucky if you hit that maybe with a shotgun, yeah, but not with the Smith & Wesson. So most of the things you probably want to kill, a shovel's better than a gun.
I guess let me talk in American here. I'd rather try. You got to buy a shotgun with some sprayed.
Yeah.
Some sprayed. But
going back to my point,
yeah,
that's the reason why, because I remember when I first moved here, I remember people talking about the gun buyback, the Australian gun buyback scheme, and how, we should try and do that in America, blah, blah, blah. I'm that ain't going to work. There are more firearms in this country than there are people.
Right.
It's not, the amount of firearms in this country is insane. And I think that's a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
Because that's probably the only thing that is stopping a massive rollout of something like a central bank digital currency, is the fact that they can't take your firearms away.
Right.
They give the Second Amendment.
And the Second Amendment, and you can also the other thing that's kind of helping everything. Now this is good and bad, but 3D printing of stuff.
Yeah.
Now it's not there yet, but in the future
it'll be very, very possible to 3D print a firearm.
Yeah. So that has been another industry that's kind of it's growing slower than cryptocurrency, but at some point technologically the things are going to get good enough, and then the prices get to a point where it's over. Everyone's got it. So it's they can't really stop it anymore. And I think that might be something that might actually if the technology gets so good at some point, that'll end up getting to Australia and other places where that will if shit ever got that bad,
it would get outlawed before it could get there. Like in Australia, that's what they would do. They would just say, "Oh, well, because you can do this with a 3D printer, we have to outlaw 3D printers." Basically, that would be the case.
Except for like corporations or something that are like,
yeah, exactly. You have to have a license and whatever to have a 3D printer, and But yeah, in America, that's really your biggest saving grace is the amount of firearms you have, so that you can't really the government really can't roll in with like tanks and armed thugs and take your shit away.
Right.
For the most part, I mean, they'll push. I mean, they'll
I feel
push and they'll poke as much as they can.
Yeah.
But eventually, at a certain point, like there's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Right.
And America just ain't going to take it.
Right.
I'd like to hope so with all the firearms.
I think the military would like beat the crap out of crowds and stuff like that. But if soldiers started getting like orders to mow down entire groups, they would just be like, nah.
Especially because most men that sign up for the military are rather patriotic.
Yeah.
The military, especially, like maybe the police force. I can get a bit iffy about that sometimes, but the American military are very, very patriotic.
Yeah.
So I can't foresee a point where the American military would go as far as like the actual soldiers in the army wouldn't go and shoot innocent American civilians. They'd be like, well, fuck this is ridiculous. What's going on here? And that's when you have some kind of big social upheaval here in America.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy when you study history. Like one of the stuff that I love studying about is like how legions, like the Roman legions, would act with each other and stuff. Like the only time they would ever like sack cities and shit is just because they need to get paid. They hadn't been paid in forever, and then the Roman general would be like, yeah, you can sack the city. Yeah, you can go. They would sack the city, but it is like it. I mean, maybe the United States. I mean, you always pay your soldiers. 100%. That was actually a huge problem for the Roman Republic, and then the Empire from there and stuff like that. That they just kept fucking up, not paying the soldiers. Or they kept trying to like, even back then they would start nicking gold off the coins and stuff like that. That's why we have like the rib on the quarters and stuff, because that's an old thing where like it used to be silver, and then people would just like grind off a little bit of silver off the edges and stuff, so they would make it more like smooth, and they would steal a bunch of silver from coins.
Wow.
And then eventually it's like, oh fuck, these fuckers are getting slick to the shit. So then they started like putting less silver and other metals inside the coin, so it's like, oh, this is now 90% so, or 80% silver, and these dumb fucks ain't gonna realize. And then eventually people started and then this is how how everything's always gone bad, is just devaluing the currency, right? And this is why like so many people go into crypto. Now, crypto's got a shit ton of volatility, of course, right? But big down means big up, right? But it is the sort of thing too. Like now, I think you're right about the central bank digital currencies that we are going to get here in the United States, but it's always like kind of like we're China light. Like, I think the gun thing might be really like, you're right about the gun thing as well. And on top of that, we aren't full commie, even though we like there's some stuff, right? Of course, but the Chinese are going to take it to a crazy level. But I honestly think that China's in huge trouble personally. Like, I'd be shocked by the end of this decade they're still like in the same form that they are today.
Yeah, it's because there was a guy on Joe Rogan recently who was talking about this, where they've got like apparently
Peter Zion.
I didn't catch his name, but I think apparently like they got wiretaps basically in Beijing.
Oh yeah,
and it's like no one's questioning. What is it? Is it still Xi Jinping? Yeah. No one's questioning him because they can't, like if you come in like giving him advice or like, hey, maybe you might want to change this policy, like to help like to progress them in some further direction, because any dissent is immediately quashed by throwing you in prison. Or throwing you and your family in prison,
right?
So no one is even questioning the guy, and eventually that ship ain't gonna sail anymore.
That's the shit that happened to Stalin. Like Stalin was the same thing, except even a little more like.
He was a lot more harsh.
A lot more harsh, right? Like he's not outright killing people, but basically the way he died was every doctor like basically he had this whole thing that doctors were like fucking like evil motherfuckers or something, right? So like basically he died because every doctor was like afraid to even touch him, because he was like, fuck, if there's even a fuck up here, like he's like, I'm gonna go to the gulag, I'm dying.
One of the best comedies you'll ever watch is called The Death of Stalin.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen this movie?
No.
It's really funny, and it documents. It's kind of like it's half true. Well, it's actually based on true events.
Yeah.
But it in a comedic way, it documents what happened immediately after Stalin's death and the struggle for power amongst all of his like high-ranking officials. Really, really well done, and it explains it goes over that exactly.
Really,
like they get a bunch of doctors in, and it's like no one wants to like touch him and like fuck up. It's really funny. Really, the way they do it all, it's really well done. So the death of Stalin, I'd highly recommend you guys watch that.
So, but that's crazy. I mean, to get to the point where like everyone's afraid to even tell you anything. You're just in the bubble.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing like where was this? There was an interview that I saw that basically Xi didn't know like so Xi didn't know that there was protests in his country until Trump told him. So Trump's like, hey, so how are you dealing with these? There's been all these riots in the middle of your country. He's like, riots? What are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, there's riots. And like, yeah, there's been happening for the past like 4 weeks and shit. And he's like,
no one told him.
No one told him because he's like, fuck, you want to fucking die? Like, you want to? Yeah.
No one wants to be the bearer of bad news.
Right.
And that's like I agree with you. That can't sustain for much longer. And that's the big elephant in the room with China is the aging population in China.
Right.
Right, because you had the one-child policy. So now there are more. I think it was like there's more 60-year-olds than 50-year-olds. There's more 50-year-olds than 40-year-olds. There's more 40-year-olds than 30-year-olds. There's more 30-year-olds than 20-year-olds in China. Something like this, right? Because of the one-child policy, and because they have a cultural preference for dudes over women. That
because of property rights and stuff like that. Yeah.
And the culture in general. Like there was a lot of I don't know, like, how do I say this? Like aftermarket abortions. Going on in China during that period, right?
Right.
So now you've a massive aging population and a massive, tiny younger workforce. So how the hell is a communist state going to keep that running?
They can't.
They can't.
They can't.
I think the projection is like the population will be something like 350 million within the next decade or something.
Yeah.
That's a massive decline from where they're at.
That's
right
a huge decline. Yeah, and then off the same vein, like they were lying. They didn't even track their numbers correctly. So they were like, we thought we actually had 100 extra million people. Like, what the fuck?
It's a lot of people.
A rounding error, you guys. Rounding error.
That is a lot of people to not count.
Yeah. And the same thing with Russia too. I mean, like this is why this is the crazy shit. I've been talking about like demographics since like I started my YouTube channel from the jump because it's like it's not going to give you everything, but it's roughly the biggest predictor of what's going to happen, right? Like right now here in the United States, right? We are like the millennial generation, which is basically like I think 1981 to like 96 is the largest generation we've ever had. It's just barely bigger than the boomers, just barely. I think it's like 5 or 10% bigger than the boomers. I think the generation younger than us, which is the Zoomers and stuff, they're 30 or 40% smaller than us in terms of a generation, and then the Xers are smaller than the millennials as well, and stuff like. And then of course the Boomers are the Boomers, right? The big ass generation, and we actually have millennials here, right? And so basically, like it's sort of like they're no, wait, that's kind of a nasty explanation, but basically, all these people are retiring, and basically we're replacing them, right? But what's going on with the rest of the countries around the world, developed countries, is that they don't have enough millennials to kind of take over. So like there's something called like the population Ponzi, where like the systems have all been set up in a way where like you have these old people. You've always have more young people than old people, like you were saying, right? But the main portion of it, why that's so important, right? Because if there's no money version of it, it doesn't matter. Well, yeah, there's less people, but like we're still young, right? There's still young people. The reason it's so important is because there's financial systems behind it.
Yeah, like pension, welfare.
Yeah,
these are all built upon that.
Right, and you need more people. So this is the whole thing where like a healthy economy is basically where you have a population growth where like the average man and woman together are having an average of like 2.5 to 3 kids. Yeah. You have 2.5 to 3 kids, economy's banging. Like we're out here, like it's like nothing. Like you could damn near fix any economy on the planet. Just like increase the birth rate, and we're good.
Hungary did this recently. They've any woman under the age of 30 who has kids doesn't pay tax for the rest of her life.
What?
Yeah.
Dang.
It's on my Twitter. I retweeted it recently.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. So Hungary put this thing out recently. I assume it was recently. I saw it recently, but
is that for the family or just her?
I believe it's just for her, but obviously there's going to be. I think the incentive is like, okay, you don't pay tax, a husband goes and works or whatever, maybe it's a family income. If they're married, it's probably going to be a family income thing, I'd imagine, because usually couples get taxed together.
Because I heard now this is a Russia thing that I heard. This is a while back. Russia had this whole thing where like if a woman had more than 6 or 8 kids, no taxes for anything. Like just basically saying, and it's true. Like we do need to like incentivize this sort of thing to have people to have families. Like there's this whole push where like less people is better. That's retarded.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like
how are you gonna get the geniuses if you don't make them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, like, the reason the baby boom generation was a baby boom generation in the first place is because they didn't have a war. Like, people used to have tons of kids.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of the men would go off and die in a war.
Yeah.
And then the survivors would come back and you'd just repeat the process again and again and again. Right? Now, like, that's the reason why the baby boom generation happened is because none of them, they didn't go off and really die in that many wars. Right? I don't care, you had Vietnam and stuff like that, but
yeah,
was nowhere near as many casualties as like World War I, World War II, etc. And so now we're in the similar situation where we haven't really had that many people going off and dying in wars, so that there's this idea that we're like going through like overpopulation and stuff, right. And that's definitely not the case. Fun fact though, I didn't know that about Russia.
Yeah,
you know, from my understanding, the first person to implement a policy like that was Adolf Hitler. He gave away a medal, or I can't remember what the name of the medal was. It was something like the wives' medal or the mother's medal or something like that,
right?
To women who had more than like 5 or 6 kids.
Oh, the whole Aryan baby push thingy. Yeah.
He was one of the first ones to push that. So the policy works. It works. It did work.
you know. Speaking of World War II, dude, I always say this fucking joke to like friends and shit and people in private. I was like, if I could control a country, right? Like, let's just say, because you were in Poland and stuff like that. I was like, if I was fucking Polish right now and I controlled the government, I would just hit Germany first. Like every world war, like bro, they started. Germany starts it and fucking hits Poland and stuff. Like Poland always gets sandwiched. So I was like, all right, if we're going out, we're gonna go out with style this time. We're going out swinging. Who started this World War III? It was Poland. They went right into Germany.
That's why I like Poland, because they've just been getting their asses kicked by like the Germans and the Russians for like a century.
Yeah.
So they're super nationalistic and they hate Russia. They don't really like Germany either. So they kind of push back against a lot of the EU stuff.
Yeah. Are they a part of EU?
They are part of EU. Yeah,
okay.
They're part of Schengen. They don't use the euro. They're part of the Schengen agreement though. They're part of the European Union.
So sort of like a quasi sort of thing.
Yeah. So they're trade partners and stuff, but they don't have the currency. They don't use the euro as a currency. They have the most fun currency name I've ever heard. Okay. The Polish zloty.
Wait.
That's how you pronounce it.
like a fucking ice cream, like a jolote.
No, zloty. No, it's like ZL. There's like no vowels in it. It's just. I actually have. Do I have one in my bag? I think I have.
Hit a Pepe for that. That's crazy. That is wild.
Where did that meme even come from? Like,
oh, dude, that all comes from a it's like Pepe. Is there something called Pepe lore? So there's this whole community called Tomb.finance and stuff. Ponzi, total Ponzi,
okay.
Ponzi, but good money made, but Ponzi, right? And they had this whole thing like where it's like it doesn't matter because they had this news drop that happened every Tuesday. It was like, don't give a fuck, today's Tomb Tuesday, baby, and they had made all these memes and stuff, right? And the guy who made that song, Gote, he kind of made it free licensed. So basically, it's actually
he's Australian, by the way.
Most streamed song in the world still. It's
really?
It's actually the biggest song ever, all time. And he basically said, "Fuck this shit," and like gave it, like just let anyone use it for free outside of like a commercial, like craziest thing like that. But basically, you can use it for memes or anything like that. There's no copyright infringement on it. And then people started bass boosting it and doing all kinds of stuff to it. And then they added like these Pepes and stuff. And then so I changed it up. Like you didn't have to cut me off. And I just made it into this huge thing for my community. And then it just stuck basically. Yeah. Like in crypto, Pepe is like king.
Oh, I do know.
Yeah,
that I'm well aware of the Pepe gang.
Dude, and so I mean, I think we were just talking about this even before we started the stream. We were talking about fucking the IRS. The IRS just got what was it? The Speaker of the House and some kind of put it forward that they're going to veto this whole Biden bill for. Now this is kind of crazy. It was like what over the next 10 years they were going to hire 84,000 IRS agents, arm them with weapons. Why the fuck do they need guns?
To take our money. That's why. It's not to take the money from the CEO of JP Morgan. It's not to take Jeff Bezos' money. Yeah. It's not to take Nancy Pelosi's amazing stock investing money. Right. It's to take the average person's money. It's to take your money. That's what it's for. Simple. Like that's also why they went forward and put in that like they're going to monitor every transaction over $600. Yeah. Like recently, within the last year, and transaction like the number of $599 transactions. Yeah. Skyrocketed immediately after that. Oh gee, I wonder why. But all these things, they're not about catching and Democrats will use the same fucking narrative again and again and again. Like they'll push forward these sort of tax policies like, oh, we're going to tax the rich. They're not taxing their friends. No. They're not going to go after their buddies. They're going after you. Yeah. They're going after the average American.
Yeah. You remember what Trump said? He's like, you know why I know about this? Because I use it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's like there's a lot of loopholes in the tax system in America, but none of them are engineered towards the average person. Right. They're all engineered towards people who are in the top 1% of income.
Yeah, there's no write-offs for the normal person. If you work for McDonald's, you can't write off anything. You can't do. There's nothing to write. It's such bullshit, dude. I've said this and I've said this before, and I'll say it again right now. Not the state government, the federal government. The federal government doesn't need to tax anybody. Yeah. What do you mean, Miguel? What do you mean they don't need to tax anybody? Because they print the money. Yeah. They don't need. You do not need to be. The reason you are taxed is because they print money, they spend the money, and they're like, oh fuck, we have to take this money from these plebs or we get more inflation. So and then there's a second octave effect. The less money, the less currency, the less energy you have to do stuff, the less savings you have, the more you stay subservient and you stay as a fucking wage cuck and a slave. Now, I'm not saying taxes are completely bad. Like, we do need certain things, like, we police force, fucking firemen. You need some stuff. You need some basics here, right? But a large portion of taxes are bullshit. I mean, all right. So one of the big things with abolishing the IRS is that they get rid of the IRS, they're just going to add a spending tax to everything. Which it means, you
already have that.
You already have that, but they're going to add another one on. But I'd honestly rather have that than have the fucking... Because, you know how stressful it is to do taxes, man? Jesus, man. Bro, the first time I ever had to pay some big money on taxes, man, they took a wet bite of my ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my tax bill last year. Yep. But the funny thing about taxes is it's like... the IRS will, make you do it yourself. And if you get it wrong, all right, you're off to jail. Yeah. They already know what... They should know what you owe them. Yeah. But they're going to make you do your own audit. And then if you get it wrong, all right, we're going to audit your ass and send you to jail.
Now, there's a reason I think this is kind of really pushing forward. Now... Obviously, right? Let's just be for real. Everyone's like, the IRS is getting defunded. Everyone's like, yay, right? Now I think there's more. Now so they just passed this fucking crazy ass fucking bill, right? I think it was was it $1.7 trillion spending bill for the government and stuff like that to do all this stuff. Now in there, they actually put protections. They've made it easier. So they made it harder for bureaus of investigation into the government for members of Congress and the House of Representatives.
So it's harder to investigate a member of Congress.
Yeah, for financial things. And I'm thinking. So okay, no, give me some rope here, Sterling. Give me some rope here, right here, right? I'm thinking what's really going on is that I think we're going to have a nice pump for the next couple of years, and then we're going to have such a bad crash that there's going to be some massive investigations into Democrats and Republicans. And they don't need the fucking IRS to have a lot more agents and stuff to start investing. So I think they're even though they're helping everyone out,
they're covering their own ass.
They're really covering this is what it really is there. And in that bill, every single member of Congress has a $1.5 million yearly stipend for home defense as well.
For home defense.
Home defense. That's senators and House of Representatives.
So that means things like security,
detail, and stuff like that. So basically, they just gave every person in Congress 1.5, which is is a decent amount of money. So it's what is it some good bodyguards and stuff? You're probably paying $350, $400 a day per each one and stuff like that. So $800. Fuck. I'll do the math right now. I'm talking two NFL guys, linebackers, $800 a day, 365 days a year. That's $292,000. Where's the other 2.3 million
Yeah.
go? So okay, so then on top of that, I get some fucking the camera system, everything. You could spend all this shit on security and put weapons and stuff, and you still got $1 million left.
Yeah, easily.
So this is this is a secret little.
Yeah, look, I'll go back to my previous point. Like, look at anything in politics. Just look at the incentives there. Okay, like most people who, let's say, like I fundamentally believe both Democrats and Republicans are completely corrupt. They're all corrupt. None of them are actually on your side. Okay, and because what you just said, they're just covering their own ass.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's say Republicans win and this IRS funding bill gets canned, right?
Yeah.
The average like staunch Republican in America is looking at it and be like, yeah, our guys did that for us. No, they didn't. They did it to save their own ass.
Yeah. It's because people don't know the other thing. You would have to look at the whole thing. If people only just heard that headline, you're like, yeah, cool, fucking Republicans are awesome. And then you hear like, oh, they just made it hard for them to get investigated.
Yeah.
And then they just retarded the fucking IRS too.
Yeah. Like, they're not, like, their incentive is much, even though their public-facing persona is, we're doing this for the people, we're doing this for our constituents, they don't give a fuck about you.
Yeah.
They care about themselves, they're looking after their own. The monetary incentive is that they're looking after their own ass. Plain and simple.
Now, if I'm trying to read between the lines here, right? There's two things, right? The average person in Congress is, if we're lucky, like if they're lucky, right, they're probably making $250,000 a year, something like that. And actually, a little bit less because that's what the president makes.
But all of these guys walk out as millionaires.
Yeah. How the fuck do you, with a quarter? I'll be nice here. Let's just say they even make $500,000 a year, right? How are they worth 50, 40, 100 million? How?
Insider trading, simple.
They bought Bitcoin at the bottom, bro. That's what happened.
Yeah.
It's insider trading, right? And on the other side, right? I mean, now this is like the crypto conspiracy theory mind, right? If they're doing this actually lends to maybe maybe there is more of a bad crash coming in the future or something like that. There is something up because if they're covering their ass this bad, I mean that actually does scare me a little bit because I was like, why are these assholes trying to cover this? So something's going to happen. So it just makes me like, I still think for the crypto market and the overall market, there's still going to be one more little drop.
Yeah.
But we're very close. Like right now, we should be buying crypto and assets right now, not real estate, but everything else, everything that's like some stocks you like, crypto, whatever your game is, you know what I mean? Like buying stuff, like you see these fucking Pokemon cards behind Stirling right now and stuff like that. That card, like a PSA 10 or whatever like that, you probably could. It was like $30 or $60,000 for a PSA 10. I think they've gone down like to like a point where they're like $8,000, $9,000 or something. And so it's just like this sort of thing. Like now, sadly enough, not even sadly enough, like a PSA 10 Blastoise and Charizard, probably a good investment. If I'm being honest, but it's because you have to buy things where a bunch of people know about it. Like it's a collector's item, and like that's actually like a Charizard is like an actual it's kind of like the highest level NFT for like a millennial guy, just because I grew up with that even in school and stuff. So it's like everyone wanted it, but you like almost nobody had it,
Yeah.
And when you're a little kid, your parents are gonna buy you like a couple packs. That's it. So it's like whoever had it was like holy shit, But
so when you were saying before, like it's not a good real estate right now isn't a good investment. When do you think the real estate market's going to come to a crash?
It's already crashing right now. I mean, right now in Vegas, I think we're down 18 to 20% from all-time highs.
Right.
The worst market in the United States is San Francisco, down 34% so far.
What a surprise!
What a surprise!
People don't like human feces on their sidewalks.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
So this is sad to say. I mean, I'm from the West Coast and stuff. I'm California, born and raised and stuff like that. And it's sad. I think the area I'm from is still doing okay, but it's still like basically. The entire west half of the United States is doing the worst in real estate right now. And the East Coast is doing the best. The only city that hasn't really crashed that much, it's down so far from the numbers from last month, 2% from all-time highs is Miami. So Miami's held up.
Yeah.
Because you're getting a lot of migration here. One of the reasons why Vegas kind of held up is we're getting a lot of people from LA and other parts of, there's like kind of a brain drain and money flowing into like, the reason a lot of people are moving to Vegas, no income tax.
Yeah.
Easily, like you could end up like you'll save 30%. Like overall on your tax bill, you're like save 30% in taxes just moving over here because you don't have that 13% state tax.
Yep.
Just off the rip, right?
And that's all the New Yorkers moving down to Florida.
Exactly same thing. And the weather's better. I went to New York, man. New York's a shithole. New York's a shit. Look at New York's a shithole. Like, bro, like Sterling. Okay, as a matter of fact, look, I've said this story something that, like, you're actually a part of the story, Sterling. Remember when I was calling you? I was in New York. It was New York.
Oh yeah, I remember this. Yes. You told me this.
I was called so. I had some family members. They were in the like those little knick-knack stores and stuff like New York and some shit, right? I couldn't get a cell reception, so I was like, "Hey, let me go outside. I'll give you a call." This homeless man tries to pick a fight with me while I'm on the phone with you.
I remember that.
Yeah, so I'm on the phone with Sterling, and he's like, "This homeless man's like, what would you do if I punch you in the face right now?" This dude was yellow teeth, like disgust, just drugged out and stuff like that. Basically, I was like, if this guy touches me, I'm gonna have to punch him. Shit, here we go. And then he backs away, right? He turns around, full ass cheeks out. So like he's in baggy shorts and stuff. Turns around, both ass cheeks out. Gets back to his trash can, literally back to his trash can, and I'm just like, this is really New York right now. And like I've seen, and I don't know which is the worst shithole, like San Francisco or New York. But like I'll at least put up with I will say this though with New York, because New York's at least trying to fix it. So it's all under construction. Like it's a good and bad thing. Like because we walked all of New York, like we didn't take a cab. We wanted to walk it really to see it, and like it's all under construction. It's like almost no construction is getting done. It's like you have all these kind of things like these metal grates and stuff and everything like that. Like they're fixing buildings and stuff, but like it looks like it never gets done.
Huh.
It's crazy, right? And we're in San Francisco. You don't have any building at all. But like, there's nothing but homeless. It's even like, it's just like there's feces and shit and diapers and like homeless tents and stuff like that. You don't have that in New York at least, but you just have like, it's like you have The Walking Dead in New York, and then you have like the walking on the sitting dead on the streets and stuff. It's insane to me. Like these are like supposed to be these two gateway cities to our economies, and they're in shambles, man.
Absolutely.
And it's really sad. And compare that when you go to Miami, it's a beautiful fucking city. Brickell's amazing. The South Beach and stuff like that. Obviously, there's always rough parts in every city, of course. Like that you'll never get away from that. But like if like the places where you want to show off, they look like trash. Mm-hmm. What is that? I went to the financial district of San Francisco, and it was homeless cities. You couldn't find a place to park. Every parking structure was full. There was nothing. I was trying to spend money in the city and could not do it. I was trying to buy a fucking Rolex in San Francisco, and I couldn't do it. I'm big mad right now. It's sad, man.
I mean, anytime someone sort of says, "Oh, no, we need taxes to build the roads,"
right?
Or that's the classic argument, right? Why do we need like this much tax? Oh, well, who's going to build the roads?
Mexicans.
Well, yeah, they will build the roads, but where's the money coming from? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Just go to Dubai. 0% income tax, my friend. The roads are fantastic. They have a police force. They have a far more advanced police force than they have here. Like, image recognition and like super high tech. They don't pay income taxes there. And the roads are fine.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they like, and before someone says, oh, it's all the oil money. Dubai, the Emirate of Dubai doesn't have any oil money. It's pure tourism money. Abu Dhabi has all the oil money, but Dubai doesn't have any oil. Dubai's oil ran out a long time ago.
Because it's like city states, right?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, little Emirates.
The Emirates, right? Yeah.
Yeah, city states basically. But it's just you don't need massive amounts of taxes to pull off the basic functions of government. It's inflated with all these middlemen and managers and senators and politicians that just. You're literally think about it. Like they're sapping your very life essence. If you're working a regular job, any kind of wage job, and you're getting taxed, but you're getting your income taxes, you're getting federal taxes, and then you're also getting like sales taxes. I think anything you purchase, like all that is happening is like for every like 10 hours you spend working, like 4 of them are spent paying some dickhead.
Yeah,
who works in Washington D.C. It's not. That's 4 out of 10 of the hours of your life. That's insane. Like that, wow. Your literal life energy is being sapped by these vampires. So people don't get angry at this,
dude. It's because they don't know taxes. They don't know any. I mean, can you imagine like you go to work at 8, and until like you don't make any money for yourself until after lunch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a great way of thinking about it.
Yeah, it's because you have to relate it to how people's like. Can you imagine that? Like you're busting if you have to work at 8, that means you get up at 6, And if you have kids, you wake up at 6, you're getting the kids ready, you got to do this, everyone got to make lunch, then you're driving to work and there's a commute there, then you get to your fucking shitty ass job, and then from there, the first fucking 4 hours are going to the government.
Yeah, they're going to paying for somebody else who's lining his own pockets, and then passing all these bills which screw you over and make him even more money.
Right.
Him or her, in the case of Nancy Pelosi.
And you're paying your own lunch too. Yeah.
And then what you do manage to save, they're just going to print away with inflation.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the opinion that it's every American's patriotic duty to try and pay as little tax as possible.
I think, God bless America. I think that's right. Yeah.
Right? Because what is it going to be spent on? And a lot of it is spent on blowing up kids in the Middle East. Well, for the last 10 years, it's been spent on blowing up little brown kids in the Middle East, for God's sake.
Right.
And I sure as hell don't want that kind of blood on my hands.
Yeah.
And it's like, where your money, Americans should, it's crazy to me, like, how uninformed, like, the average American really is about the way their own government functions. I think maybe, like, as an immigrant, you kind of immigrate to this country because you understand it.
Right.
Like, you're like, oh, I understand why. Like, America has all these advantages over Australia. This is why I want to move here for this, and this, like, policy and government.
Now, I can't say as an Australian, but like as like family members that were like immigrated here from Mexico and stuff like that. They're sort of like, it's corrupt, but it's better. Like every other government's even more corrupt where we come from, at least, right?
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's like there's this whole thing where like even though something is unfair, you can't speak up because you don't want to get deported.
Right.
On top, so there's now there's some people that immigrate and they get the green card and all this other stuff, but there's this whole like the first generation of like people who move to a country that they've got this like you got to keep the head down a little bit, and I don't know if maybe that breeds like, because like I remember my parents and like my grandparents like would like, hey, like I don't know if that like causes this whole thing of just being like, hey, don't call, hey, don't
ruffle any feathers.
Don't be loud and flashy out here.
Right.
And like, because like a lot of people have wondered, like there's like a huge amount of the population of the United States is Mexican and Latino and stuff like that, yet there's like barely any famous Latinos or anything out here. And I really think part of it is probably because like keep your head down and be quiet and stuff. Because like they're really like, I remember the fear of like I remember walking into, like I was in a convenience store one time, in a Mexican convenience store, and the immigration came in. And I was like 9 years old, and every fucking person in the store ran, and I was just the kid in there. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And literally, I was like, wow. But that's how that was like now it's gone now. It's like, because what happened was basically by like 2005, it was like a lot of Latinos got like decently wealthy from like the housing boom. It just got to the point where like you were gonna kick a hornet's nest if you kept doing. So like it's down to like basically like you want to start some bullshit, try to do that shit today.
Yeah,
you're not gonna do it.
I mean, not to mention like the labor force would diminish to nothing.
Yeah, this is mostly for the whole West Coast side. I can't speak for the East Coast because I've never lived there. But like, West Coast wise, you go after immigrants and fucking Latinos and shit, your economy will collapse.
Yeah. Like no one's building anything. No one's working on any roads. No one's working on any of the farms.
Right.
Like all this giant immigrant labor force that you have in America, just you're gonna try and get rid of that.
Yeah.
And it won't work.
It won't work at all. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, like now like you were asking me earlier about the housing and stuff, like when that's gonna bottom out and stuff. Like this is like really, I'm being really bullish. November, December of this year, but I don't believe so. I truly believe the bottom's probably going to be like the summer of 2024. So the Fed's going to keep increasing rates for the next 2 months. For the next 2 months. In March, they've said that they're pretty much going to stop right there for a while and pause it. At the pause, anytime the Federal Reserve pauses at increasing or decreasing, where they're about to like turn direction, you have a crash every time. So in March, when they say, okay, we were going to pause interest rates for a while, but while we debate what we're going to do, and everyone's like, oh, that means they're going to start lowering them. Cool. But when that happens, we're going to get a little crash there. And every time they increase the interest rate by 25 basis points, the average American can buy $50,000 less house. So we're going to get a 50 to 75 basis point increase. So that means we're pretty much Americans could buy $100,000 to $150,000 less of a house. Just look at it's insane. Like I think I pulled this up on another stream and stuff about housing, but even if a person bought the top, let's just say something like here in a nice house here in Vegas and stuff, right? You could probably get the nice house in a decent area is $800,000, something like that. But if you're buying it at 3%, the payment's coming out kind of deep, like maybe $4,000 or $5,000. At the current interest rate, even with good credit, I mean that payment is got to be ridiculous. Even with the price going down, let's say you bought the top, but you bought at the lowest interest rate, you're still paying way less than the guy, even if he bought it at 600. And at like that 7-8%, oh my God. Like that interest rate is insane right there. So this is why like that's it takes a while for the real estate stuff to really trickle out. It's the biggest part of the economy because so much of the economy is housing. 30-40% of the economy is housing because insurance, the trades, concrete, steel, wood. I mean, it almost touches every facet of the economy. So basically, I believe that we're gonna hit the bottom within this next year in crypto. We're going to be pumping in crypto finally into 24, and the bull market won't really start up again until that like right now the economy's got the parking brake on with real estate, but people are barely now starting to realize it. Like me and Charlie were saying that the real estate market was, along with, because crypto was the first thing to get punched in the face. So we're like, oh fuck, we got a black eye. We're like, oh hey, you guys, we got kind of beat up over here. I think you guys are next. Yeah. And and this is one of the things that kind of saved my ass because I was getting ready to actually get into a lot of real estate, and I decided to just let me save my capital, and I'm very glad I did. Yeah. Though there is great tax benefits to that. If you buy you make $400,000 and you spent the $400,000 on a house, there's no tax, right? Because there's incentive because you're locking up your capital in the housing market. But basically, like we're probably still looking at another 20 to 30%. Now 20% is probably like state nationwide, 30% in the shittier areas, or the more hyper areas. So probably like Vegas, a lot of like San Francisco. So if you look at it, what we're looking at right now, probably San Francisco is going to be 50% down from all-time high before it's done. Shit. Vegas is probably like 40 or 39%. Miami might only be like 20 actually, which is nice.
I think Miami's going to hold on.
Yeah, it's only down 2% right now. That's actually pretty good. Yeah. But what happened? Here's the bad thing: is that it takes a while for foreclosures to happen. So this is like, the stretching out of it and everything like that. But prices are coming down, but still, like the interest rate's really what's going to hold everyone back because it makes it more expensive to like actually get into that house. Yep. Yeah.
So when I was back in Australia, I was looking at like the real estate market because my sister's bought a house, and there's a very interesting thing playing out in Australia right now when it comes to real estate. So I'd be curious to see. Let's compare prices of houses in Australia versus America because most people this would be very interesting to most people. So let's say, how much do you think? Let's say if you had a city that was say a couple 100,000 people, like some not really a big city, and a regular 2-bedroom house in a suburb. Yeah. Let's just pick a random city. Let's pick somewhere maybe in like Texas or maybe in the Midwest in America, right? How much do you think that house would normally cost here in America?
In the Midwest.
Yeah, let's just say Midwest.
Right now probably like high 3s, 4s.
300, 400,000.
1,000 in the Midwest.
For like a 2-bedroom.
Yeah, for a decent, it would probably be like a 3-bedroom and some change, but like roughly it'd probably be something like that.
Yeah. So in my sister's house down in the Southwest, 100, 200,000 person population town, she's paying something like they pay, to buy the house. It cost them something like 600,000.
Yeah,
that's in Australia, which is like much smaller economy.
Right.
Like, but the other interesting thing is, so right now you've got getting tradies, getting any kind of tradesman, so like an electrician, a builder, a carpenter. You have to wait like probably like a good 4 to 6 weeks to get anyone.
Yeah.
Because they're in such high demand. They can charge whatever they want, and they're just booked up, and they would refuse jobs if it's not really worth their time.
Right.
So it's super hard to get anything done, construction wise. And then on top of that, the interesting thing that's happening in Australia right now, or at least in Western Australia, is you've got a whole bunch of people. Like there's a massive shortage of labor for like regular job, like retail jobs, fast food jobs. Like think any kind of job that like a student might get, or like a young person might work.
Right.
No one is signing up for these jobs because the wages aren't enough for them to afford the rent.
Yeah.
In that city. And then there's also a massive housing shortage because no one can afford to build any new houses because the cost of materials is jacked up and the cost of blue collar labor is massively inflated. Right. and the cost of houses are massively inflated because you've got all these Chinese investors just buying up houses and not even living in them, and not renting them out either. So there's a small section of housing that's actually available to rent. The average person can't afford to even rent it, so they don't take these low-paying wage jobs. So you got this weird scenario where like no one can get a house, and no one's signing up for jobs because they can't afford on that wage. They can't afford to even rent anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's just this weird like chaos that's building in the real estate market in Australia right now.
Yeah, and we have that in large parts of the United States as well. I'd say it's exact same story in the gateway cities or any of the big cities and stuff, San Francisco, and basically anywhere in California mostly. But when you get into the Midwest, I would probably say it's not as like crazy as that, but the same thing, it's getting there.
Right.
So these real estate prices go here. People who make a ton of money, they just start moving the money into those states to start doing the same thing. Because I did a stream recently where I did a stream on how baby boomers are the worst people on the planet. Check out that stream, you guys. The baby boomer stream is pretty crazy. And basically, what their generation really started was the financialization of the real estate market. Now, of course, real estate's always been traded back and forth. There's always money in it, but it really became from a utility to an asset class, and I showed on the screen like basically how cheap it was relative to everything. So basically, when the oldest boomers, when they got into the workforce and stuff like, this is like with the average income job, it was like a house is only 2 times their yearly income.
Yeah.
And maybe by the time they got into their late 30s, it was probably like 3.5 times. And then basically right now it's crazy. Like the average income in America is like $55,000, and I would say the average house is probably $300,000-$400,000. Dude, like 6 times your income easily. Yeah. And now if you live in the big cities, holy shit! I mean, like I was talking about 800,000 here in Vegas, right? What would you in order to make that up? It's insane. You have to make $200,000 to afford that house. It's
not sustainable.
Not sustainable at all, right?
And I used to be one of these people who, I when the classic kind of trope is you'll hear boomers say, "Oh, you don't work hard enough. Stop eating avocado toast. Yeah.
Pull yourself by the bootstraps.
Stop having Starbucks every day, and then you'll be able to afford a house." Well, that was actually true for them in their youth.
Right.
And now I've completely changed. I used to believe that narrative.
Yeah. And
now I've completely changed my opinion on this. I'm like, nah, you guys actually screwed up a lot of things. So I'm actually going to go back and watch that stream of yours. I want to hear your entire take on it.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's because I reacted to a video of this historian guy who kind of went over like what they went through. Like obviously you can't blame like they were like essentially the first generation ever to like and this was the boomers across the planet.
Yeah,
it was the first. Now there's some boomers had it worse, some of the boomers had, but we're mostly talking about the American ones here, where you had this whole like golden age where basically after World War II everything was destroyed. The only people with manufacturing capacity was the United States, so we exported everything. Dodge, Ford, GMC, blah, 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 and basically there was no competition, so it created this golden era in the 50s and into the 60s where we were just out here, and then this is the time the boomers grew up. So they grew up in this whole thing where like their parents were coal miners, and then their grandparents were basically like basically every generation was like had a shittier life, and so things were like on the way up. So it was like natural that we're like, oh yeah, we're just ascending upwards, right? And it was like this unparalleled, like the generation that grew up in the best financial position ever. And they really fumbled the ball pretty badly. But at the same time, no generation had ever been in that position as well.
Right.
And then you had this, I think the real big fuck up that happened, and I don't blame the baby boomers on this, is you had the advent of the birth control pill. And remember the whole hippie era, like free love, man. And I said that, like, you've seen the movie 300, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So remember in 300, there was that like ugly, like Gollum looking motherfucker who traded out the entire crew for one night of sex.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's basically the boomer generation. They're like all these ugly ass fucking baby boomer dudes were like, bro, yeah, and let's empower women. Let's do this. Yeah, free love, man. So they traded the way things were for like a little bit of this disgusting armpit fucking barefoot fucking nasty mud sex.
Hippie sex.
And then sent us on this degenerate path to where we're at now.
It's true.
That's what happened. And it's now, if we were given the decision I like obviously like you can't like it's hard to like say. I'd say we probably wouldn't have gone that way, but basically, so they're saying so there's this whole thing, right? Like because there was all these barriers to entry, right? You actually had to be like music's a good example, right? You had to be an actual musician. So imagine like, but for someone to become a famous musician, they actually had to know how to play an instrument. They had to be really like it was hyper competitive. And what happened in the '70s and stuff like it with television is they started kind of lowering they started letting anyone do it. But since the talent pool was already talented already, like they would only let like one or two people or groups hit. And now when they kind of unlocked it with television, it was kind of like the podcast era. It got things got a little more democratized. You ended up having like 8 bands instead of 2 bands. And then we had this like flourishing of like talent of like some of the best music in the world, and that's why like you had such crazy good music in the '70s. And what happened from there is now like any motherfucker can get famous, and this is where you get like. Then in the video they had like these ugly. Like, I don't even want to say the names of the guys. I don't want to trash on the guys, but most of these fucking crazy rappers are like these people who get famous off of TikTok for being famous and stuff, and no talent, and they have like one.
The mumble rappers,
and stuff like that, right? And that's basically what happened, and that started basically from the boomers kind of pushing this kind of indecency because like you got to imagine like free love, like imagine like having unprotected sex and all this other stuff, and then where their parents were like, no, you have to get married first. You do all how crazy of a and they sent us down this path.
Yeah, you decoupled sex from consequences.
Correct.
Completely for both men and women. Like you completely because like for a guy, it's like okay, if I have sex with this girl, she gets pregnant. I'm a father. I'm responsible. I have to take care of this kid and this family now. And from her perspective, it's like, well, I'm pregnant now, you know. But you've completely decoupled the responsibility and consequences of sex, right? And if there's one thing that's I was actually thinking about doing a video on this, like all the things that have, like the biggest screw ups that humanity made.
Ooh,
I think, and as in the last 50 or so odd years, I think the birth control pill will probably be the number one. It has had probably the most negative consequences overall for society. I think
ever. It was like the technology of technologies. Like I think even if you had that whole free love era without the pill, it couldn't have been. This is why I don't blame the boomers.
You couldn't have it without the pill. You couldn't have had it without the pill.
And this is why I don't blame This is why I can't blame it on the boomers here because it was like it was like their parent scientists that made it up. Yeah. So, but like it's unlocking. It's like that Pandora's technology of like
it came from good intentions.
Yeah, and then the same thing with the cell phone, right? It's good intentions.
Yes.
But then you've unlocked the whole. Not like remember the whole thing where you could actually like I think Tate says this a lot, right? You could have gone to like a bumblefuck town and actually found like this dime piece. Yeah. Now all the dime pieces are in Dubai. Yeah. The globalized sexual marketplace.
Yes. Yeah. I was gonna say like on that list would be birth control pill, smartphone, and then Instagram. Yeah, would be 3 of the biggest fuck ups, I think.
I did make one. So because I had somebody else on and we talked about this a little bit in terms of like. What could be the technology to like clap back at all that tech? And now this is where it gets a little weird. Where like it would have to be something like where men could actually get robots pregnant or something like that, and you would, and that would be the only thing I could think of that could even rebound. Where like the women would be like, hey, yo, let's like yo, I'm here, you know, like yo, let's not get crazy ideas right now, you know. That's the only, and that's how crazy you'd have to get to where like you could almost replace one part of the sex, even though it wouldn't happen. But it would like you'd have to have something to like put like pressure. It's insane.
So people don't really understand how. Like I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about how bad the birth control pill is because it's not about like suppressing women and like you know. Having authority, like what's the word? Like having control over women and stuff, and
property of women. Basically.
Yeah, it's not about that. The reason why it is so bad is because there's a couple of real key reasons, right? So they did a lot of studies where they would take a bunch of dudes, right?
Yeah,
and they would make them not wear any colognes or deodorants or they could only wash with like basic unscented soaps and stuff, right?
Deodorants. And
stuff, no deodorants, none of that. No
detergents.
Yeah, none of that stuff, right? So they had these guys be like that for a few days, and then they gave them all these plain white shirts, and they made them like run on a treadmill and sweat into these t-shirts, right? Then they bagged up these t-shirts, put them in sealed plastic bags, kept it anonymous, and then gave these t-shirts to a random sampling of women to sniff test and see which ones they found the most pleasing, which ones smelled the best, right? And then they also took a sampling of both the men and the women's immune system profiles, and it turns out that women found the women found a dude's scent most attractive when they had the most different immune system. If you think about that, okay, well, if man A and woman B have two completely different immune systems, when they have a kid, the kid's going to get some kind of cross-sampling of these two immune systems, so the kid's going to have a better chance of survival because it's going to be inoculated to a different variety of viruses and diseases.
So does that have something to do with race or something, or just like different?
I don't think it's race. I think it's just like genetic background, genetic history.
Dang.
That's why you don't. Same reason why you don't interbreed. You don't breed within the family.
Well, of course, yeah.
Right?
Alabama, shout out.
It leads to these complications. But what they didn't expect to see, and this is where the birth control pill comes in. That result was the case for women who were not on birth control. When they had women in the sample who were on birth control, they would select dudes who were actually a bad genetic match, shall we say, for their potential offspring. Wow. So the birth control pill. So this happens all the time. By the way, this is one of the contributing factors to the divorce rate being so high. Is when women come off the birth control pill, their preferences for men completely change. So women will get with a guy on the birth control pill. They'll hook up with all these dudes that they naturally would not actually be attracted to, but they went on a birth control pill. Their hormonal responses are completely different. So they get with these guys, and then, let's get married, let's have kids. They get off the birth control pill, and then she hates him. Yeah. She's like completely unattracted to this guy.
Like repulsed or something.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh crap, and they get divorced, and everything screws up, and the family breaks apart. So this is just like that's one of the main ramifications of the birth control pill is bad mate choice for women.
Wow.
Literally biologically. I'm not even talking, like, oh, he's a player, he's a bad choice. I'm talking literally like it makes women make bad genetic choices for their potential offspring. Right. Like literally making their babies less, not as strong.
And like I felt like guys had this a little bit too, like because like I remember like I would like talk to some girls or something, or like be dancing, or like like you're dancing with some stuff, and like some chicks like so we're like looks aside, like they're acceptable looks wise, right? And then I would like talk to some of these girls, and they're just like, this bitch smells weird to me. I don't know, to me, like I maybe just pulling that out of my ass, but like there has been this whole thing where I have felt that about some chicks, not a lot, but like there has been like some like I don't know, like smell like a fucking whore.
I'll give the second biggest problem with the birth control pill.
Okay,
is the hormone that's in birth control pill. I believe it's called estradiol.
Okay,
I mean I might get that.
The traditional one, right? Yeah.
The original pill, right? The problem with that is that the female body doesn't absorb all of it.
Okay.
And a lot of it will get passed out of her system in her urine when she goes to the toilet, right?
Right.
Now, that was okay when this was first invented, but we've had 50 odd years. What's that set? When was it invented? Like in the 60s.
Yes,
so probably 60 years of women all over the planet, by the way, but a lot of American major cities urinating out estradiol from the birth control pill. And that has penetrated into the water table, into the water supply.
Oh my god!
This ain't some tinfoil hat stuff. You can go read the book Esterogeneration by Anthony J. He cites all the studies on this, and you can test municipal water now, and it is full of estradiol.
And I think I've heard about also like antidepressants as well. Yeah.
But basically, like, think about that for a second. There's a reason why. There's multiple reasons why, but this is one of the main reasons why male testosterone levels have been declining year on year from the 1950s onwards. Think about the average testosterone range for a guy now was the average testosterone range for like a 60-year-old dude in the 1950s, something like that. And your testosterone levels decline as you age. So like dudes, a 30-year-old guy in the 1950s had probably twice as much testosterone as the average 30-year-old dude today. That is insane. That is nuts. And that explains a whole lot of things about society, why the society in general is becoming a lot more feminized, why men are becoming a lot more feminized, because they literally are. And a large part of that is because they're ingesting water from the municipal water supply, right, which has estradiol, which does this. Your body has androgen receptors in it.
Yeah.
Which things like testosterone and estrogen, natural testosterone and estrogen, bind to. However, synthetic versions of those compounds they're literally made to bind to the same receptors. This is why steroids work, right? This is also why the birth control pill works for women.
Yeah.
It makes the body think that it's already pregnant. But it does the same. It binds to those receptors in dudes as well, and it causes an overall reduction in the testosterone, or the free testosterone.
And you want to know some crazy shit too? So when a woman's on their birth control pill, so there's something that happens when a woman is pregnant that they release a certain like a pheromone that actually makes men gain weight.
Huh.
Yeah, it's also to like supposedly saying everyone says it's like supposedly it's supposed to be because it's so hard to raise children that they need extra calories just because they might not be able to hunt or something. Crock of shit. It's because it's for mate guarding. It's to keep the man around.
Huh.
So it's like what'll happen is like they'll be pregnant and stuff like that, and so the man will gain weight, so he'll be less likely to go fucking run off and smash around and shit. It's like, motherfucker, you need to help me for 7 years with this crazy kid. That is crazy, dude. Damn. And the chat's going post-nut clarity. That's right.
Post-nut clarity.
But yeah, man, and there's all kinds of like stuff with like with all, because they figure like so there's actually this where like I'm not trying to get into like eugenic shit or whatever and stuff like that, but like there's also been I wish I had the study. Because I've read it. I know it's real. I read it, and basically there's this really weird study where they've kind of tested out what happens between like people crossbreeding and not even crossbreeding. We're all humans, right? But like if I got getting with a black woman or like a Mexican dude, like different races and stuff, and they found that with different races, because the DNA is much more different, when they when they have a kid together, the DNA ends up being more perfect. So you end up on average, they're saying like you would end up having better looking kids, but they've said that they found like anger issues. Yeah,
anger issues,
like more inclination towards anger.
Damn,
but better looking.
Huh?
And it has to do because the DNA copies better. Because like, normally humans would be like end up like sleeping with their third cousin. Normally, if you think village wise, right? You're even though you're not sleeping with your fucking cousin, it's like the related village or the next village over. You guys have a lot of the same DNA.
Right.
So if you were to get a completely different, your DNA would be like a much cleaner. Because what happens as you age and stuff, your DNA just keeps copying itself. So that's why as you get older, you start getting more fucked up because you're not repairing properly anymore. And that was like, wow, that's a crazy study and stuff. But like, it's kind of hard to go into that kind of research because it gets really squirrely. It's like
people don't like talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it's a real taboo topic to even touch on it.
Yeah,
it's like I don't think any topic should be taboo.
Yeah, but it's like, imagine like you have a whole family, like your whole family was bodybuilders, and then like your great grandfather was a bodybuilder, grandfather, your father, and then you come out like jacked from the womb. I wonder why.
That's basically like the people from Iceland.
Yeah.
It's literally
Icelandic.
Iceland. All of the strong men come from, not all of them, but a lot of the biggest strong men all come from like Iceland.
Yeah. And there's actually some stuff too. If you actually look at mammals and stuff, the biggest mammals all come from cold places. Because they have to be more mass in order to displace the coldness and heat and shit.
Oh, to have like bigger fat reserves.
Yeah, that's why polar bears are. Yeah, and they all hunt with fat. I mean, they're all like eating fucking meat and fat. I mean, that's all. There's no carbs out there at all either.
Yeah.
So all keto, baby.
Big boys.
Big boys. So we got a $10 super chat. 2 of them from Jeremy. Thank you, bro. 2 of my favorite people. Thank you guys for improving my knowledge. Shoo. Hey, I love it, man. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
And with that, man, where can people follow you, man?
YouTube at Stirling Cooper. That will bring up. Just type in my name, you'll find my channel. I'm everywhere. But same thing. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at Stirling Wisdom. If you want to find me on Instagram, I'm at Cooper Stirling. The other way around, because some bastard took the correct spelling.
Are you serious?
Yeah, but this is long before I got on Instagram.
Okay. So. And of course, man, all my guest socials are in the description box below and stuff, just in case you can't find them and stuff. And be sure to be here on Thursday. I'm gonna have another stream pretty soon, and a guest to be announced soon. And go join the Citadel right now because, man, we've got some crazy stuff going on. We got a fight club going on right now, and it closes on the 15th.
Really?
Yeah, that's it. 5 more days, and it's closed forever, and there's no more opening it anymore. So if you're going to jump in now. Jump into the Citadel. It's been way in, and you'll find out what it is.
Excellent.
So catch you guys later, man.